unmute and talk for a second. Well, I guess we could just leave it unmuted at this point. I don't know who's going to show up. It is Friday, so versus Saturday may lead people to being less available potentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess for people that may, well, no, they wouldn't be listening in the future because this is a book club. So never mind. We can just get started.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are quartet, one from many. The palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's Magnum Opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for, I guess I can change the slide so it shows on the screen for those that are here live. Though those that are on the podcast will not see it, but we are on book club number 6, part 16. So we are here for another book club episode. And we were just looking at the percentages according to the Kindle that I use. We are currently at 69%. So we are getting into the waning portions of the book here. I mean, we have still some to get through, but we're certainly a ways in. I don't know. What do you think? Less than 20?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Is it
4 parts? Well, 3 parts if we're going to go less. I think we should aim to end on 19. I think that should be a goal for us.
Yeah, that should be the aim. But yeah, we're at 16 now. Yeah, we got I don't know. We're basically at 70% because I am on the title page of where we're at. So let's go ahead and hit you with the intro real quick, and then we'll get started on talking about where we're at in the book here. And that is Drawing of the Three. I don't know if I mentioned that. I did say it's part 16, but I don't know if I mentioned which book we're in, but should be clear to anyone unless you're new, I suppose. Yeah. So first of all, we don't warn you about spoilers on these. We don't go any further than we are in the book here. So unless you're earlier in book 2 or you are in the middle of book 1, you don't have to worry about spoilers. If you happen to be that early in, read quick and come back to us quicker, but I would probably not listen if you are, say, in the middle of book 1. Next up, if you want to find us, you can find us a number of ways. I still haven't changed the notes here, but it is Apple Podcasts, I believe, is what it's being called now. The iTunes is no longer a thing. As well as Stitcher. You can stream us on there. And, of course, any third-party podcast service, of which there are many. You can find us on any of those. If you could be so kind as to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you can. But Apple, Apple Podcast service is certainly the big one, and if you do it there, it definitely helps the show. We also have show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. We do a number of things there. With the book club episodes, though, we generally don't have any show notes, so for that, if you want to go there, you can find like old episodes. We have posts for the old episodes as well as the show notes for those episodes. You can find all that at darktowerpalaver.com. Also, if you want to be part of the conversation, there's a number of ways to do that, and Peter can let you know about those.
Best way to reach us is email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. You can find us, it's on Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Also, give us a follow on the Twitter. It's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. Like some of us here today know, we stream our shows on YouTube. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. We stream all of our shows live. We leave the roundtables up, but the book clubs we do not post due to copyright issues. So you can go back and see some of our roundtables with visuals that Tad shows me here in the office, as well as sometimes even video clips and stuff like that as well. But
yeah.
it's youtube.com/Dark Tower Palaver.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, we got Cody and Travis are both in the chat right now. So welcome, gentlemen. And yeah, so I guess we'll say up front too, for the live folks. I guess if you're listening on the podcast, you probably won't notice any difference. Because we've decided to hold the episode and release it when it would normally come out, which is actually a week from when we're recording it. We're having to record a week early due to scheduling conflicts, and we're actually recording on a Friday instead of a Saturday as well. So it's extra different this episode. But for the live people that are here live, such as Cody and Travis in the chat currently, if anyone else joins us throughout, they'll be able to hear the episode live. But everyone else will be hearing it in about a week, maybe a week and a half by time it gets posted. So if you're on the podcast, we'll be back in a couple weeks. If you're listening to us live, it'll be a number of weeks.
Yeah, so if you're listening on the podcast, basically it's just not going to interrupt the schedule at all.
No, we're
going to stay normal for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Just the live part.
Yeah, and that's the reason that to subscribe to YouTube, as well as follow us on your social media things. I usually, especially Twitter, I'd say I'm best on Twitter. Just in general, Facebook can get kind of, I don't know, a little bit more cumbersome.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to post it on both, but sometimes on the fly I'll shoot out a tweet and forget to do Facebook. But check with both for things like programming notes, such as moving a date like we did here. So.
Yeah, and if you like and subscribe, ring the bell on YouTube. It gives you notifications of whenever we go live. So you can do that as well. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, let's dive into it here. So like I said, we're at about 70% of the way through the book here. The Kindle is telling me 69%. But I'm sure, I don't know how many pages it usually takes to change a percent, but yeah, we're definitely getting right into the mix of it here. We are now entering, I don't know, is it like a book separator? I'm trying to remember how this always breaks out.
It kind of is like a book separator a little bit for it. Because they have reshuffle in here quite a few times.
Because I think of the stand, you have 3 books in the stand?
3 distinct books.
Yeah. And then each of those books has their own set of chapters and stuff. I mean, it's all part of the stand, but it's just the way that King divided it. And I feel like with Dark Tower, you kind of get that a little bit too. With the reshuffles, it doesn't get numerized like you would with a chapter or anything. Because as we've seen so far in this book, whenever we get into a shuffle or reshuffle portion of the book, it's usually a little bit more random. Although just in general is what we're going to get into in this episode, I think it's a little bit less random than we've seen in previous shuffle chapters.
Yeah, previous shuffles have been when Roland is half delirious and you see 20 minutes from his view and then it shuffles and then it's 3 days later and we see another 20 minutes from him. But this one is different, and we'll get into it here as we get further into the episode and start reading. Yeah.
So where we left off, Roland collapsed on the beach, and we're still dealing with Detta, although she was showing signs that she would be turning back. She was rubbing her head as though she had a headache toward the end of the last bit that we read in the last episode. So we've caught on that's certainly the indicator that a change between the two.
She did change. That's when Roland collapses. Right.
That's right.
He held on until she changed back, and then he collapsed.
That's right. That's correct. So yeah, she's changed back now, which is kind of where we're at. We're in between doors 2 and 3, as they are moving on the way here. So, getting into reshuffle. The first portion of reshuffle is reshuffle. Part 1 here.
Yep.
So what do you got here?
For me, it's the whole first page. Basically, is that to Eddie, he and the lady no longer seem to be trudging or even walking up what remained of the beach. They seem to be flying. Now that part, I wanted to talk about that part for a second. Remained of the beach, because that indicates they're coming to. We've all seen beaches. We've seen where it ends, where it becomes less sandy and more dirt.
Yeah.
Right? So we have that indication there that we are heading up the beach and that it's slowly becoming narrower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely got a sense of like there's no more parallelism
Yeah.
between like what's just past the beach and what's the water itself. Like you usually have like a parallelism there.
Yeah.
But like usually as you start to get closer to like where maybe a cliff is going to interrupt the beach, you start to see that parallelism go away, and you'll see like a gradual incline of whatever it is, whether it's cliffs or whether it's like
vegetation, grass, dirt, and everything like that
or
coming into it.
In our world, parking lots.
Yeah, no kidding. Right?
Go on. I cut you off there.
No, that's fine. Odetta Holmes still neither liked nor trusted Roland. That was clear. But she recognized how desperate his condition had become and responded to that. Now, instead of pushing a dead clump of steel and rubber to which a human body just happened to be attached, Eddie felt almost as if he were pushing a glider. So that
now, do you think that this is just purely a spiritual thing in terms of for him to have Odetta back, or do you feel that this is like maybe her not like it since it's with Dead? I feel like she's doing everything physically to make it as hard as possible.
For sure.
It's just kind of even if it's one of those things like dead weight, right? Like if Odetta instead of being dead weight, like Detta would be, she may be like kind of moving and grooving to help the wheelchair go quicker.
No,
or easier.
I think that wholeheartedly she's physically helping as well as not only that, she gave him also kind of a, I don't know whether you want to call it emotional or spiritual lift, but she definitely helped with that aspect as well.
Yeah,
because
so it's both.
It's both, but I think a large part of it has to be the physical because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've pushed people in wheelchairs. Like, it's if they're able to help, it does go a lot easier. They know how to move it themselves.
Yeah,
and everything like that. And with what we've seen from her past, she's been there. She's been in a wheelchair for a while.
Yeah.
She's got the toned arms. She's got the reflexes. She's got the eyesight to see and avoid grates and dips and cracks and stuff like that in the New York sidewalk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not that she's rolling around very much. I mean, chauffeur and everything.
Yeah.
But she still knows how to navigate the world.
Yeah.
Using a wheelchair. So it's good to have her back. It's obviously going to hopefully save Roland's life. It's a big thing.
Yeah, definitely. Because we were kind of getting to a spot in the last little bit of the last chunk of pages in general, going back a few episodes even maybe, where it just felt like everything was getting wrong, more and more wrong for the characters. Like it was
let's just list a few things.
It was just like King piling on almost, Let's
just list a few things that have gone wrong for our trio here. First and foremost, the biggest problem, we have Detta instead of Odetta.
Yeah.
Okay. She's tried to kill Eddie.
Well, maybe a problem for you. I mean, I love Detta,
but she would be a problem for you too, because she would try to kill your honky ass too. So
that's true.
Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
She doesn't like you just as much as she doesn't like Eddie.
But she gives me good laughs as a reader, though.
That's true. That's true. So we have Detta instead of Odetta. Roland is running out of surefire shells, so dry shells. We're getting to the ones that have gotten a little bit wet. Yeah, questionable. That's a good way of putting it. And then there's not very many of those before we get into these are probably not going to work.
Yeah, these are ones that were certainly wet.
Yes, for sure wet. Are they going to work? Who knows? Let's roll the dice and find out kind of thing. On top of that, Roland's sick.
Yeah, Roland's getting sick again.
Not able to walk.
He didn't.
Sick.
He didn't bat the cycle as Eddie.
Right. The infection that he got from the Lobstropsity bite at the very beginning of the book was put down a little bit by the Keflex that he got from Balazar's place.
Yeah.
But Eddie explained it last time that if you don't take enough of the medication, penicillin, I think is what he had.
Yeah, like an antibiotic.
Antibiotic.
Yeah.
Is then it'll put it underground for a little bit and it's come back.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened here. Roland's done. He can't even move.
Yeah.
That's what we saw last time as he collapsed. So stacking all that, it's finally time to get a win for the good guys here and see that Detta goes away and Odetta comes back.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And then we mentioned last time Roland kind of collapses, I think almost once he sees that danger is gone. Like, not that it's gone for good, obviously, and he knows that, but like there comes a point where it's like, there's like been maybe some movies recently that I don't want to get into that you kind of get an idea of that things are okay, and that allows like, to let go, allows a person to let go type thing.
Yeah.
Then next up, we kind of get into some italicized stuff here, and it becomes clear that basically what we're seeing here is basically a flashback,
kind of,
without jumping chapters. And this is the weird thing. I remember thinking this, because I think this disoriented me a little bit. I mean, I remember the shuffle chapter disorienting me the first time I ever read it. But once I got the hang of what was going on, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But with this, it's weird because you're jumping without those shuffle things to kind of move you in time.
Yeah.
Here, it's basically just like, this is probably just Eddie's internal memory of it would probably be the way that you would do it. You know, like if it were a movie, it'd be kind of like Eddie looks off into the distance as he remembers this conversation versus like jumping a new number and then saying reshuffle or whatever.
If it was a 70s or 80s kids adventure movie, we'd get the swimming as it goes back and you see it.
Exactly. So that's probably the best way to interpret it, is we're kind of in Eddie's head for this this number, this subchapter here, and this is kind of him thinking back on it. And it says, go with her. Before I was watching out for you, and it was important. Now I will only slow you down. He came to realize how right the gunslinger was almost at once. Eddie pushed the chair. Odetta pumped it. Okay, so I guess that kind of answers our question that she is helping. One of the gunslinger's revolvers was stuck in his in the waistband of Eddie's pants, and that was not in italics. Then we go back to italics. Do you remember when I told you to be on your guard and you weren't? Yes. I'm telling you again, be on your guard every moment. If her other comes back, don't wait even a second. Brain her. What if I kill her? Then it's the end. But if she kills you, it's the end too. And if she comes back, she'll try. So again, I guess like it's one of those like you definitely have to pay attention to like the formatting here, and like honestly, like with the audiobook, I think you almost might even lose this because you're not seeing that distinction. Like with there, like right in the middle of what I just read, one portion of it jumps back to like modern as he's like giving us the rundown of like, oh, he's got the gun in his pants and Odetta's pumping and he's pushing like it, so like I don't know, it's definitely one of those, I guess, where the written portion versus maybe auditory is maybe preferred because you're kind of jumping in time and the only thing that tells us is the italics.
And that line there that I wanted to talk about is the very first one that Roland says Eddie's remembering him saying, go with her. Before I was watching out for you and that was important. Now I'll only slow you down. So it seems like the only reason Roland was still on his feet before Odetta came back is to make sure that Eddie didn't die. So that's a really cool thing to look at with everything that Eddie's accused him of. He's had a knife to his throat because he feels that he's a piece of shit. And he's kidnapped him and everything like that. And he's trapped in this world with this, what he feels is a monster now. And everything. To have him explain it that way, look, I just had your back. Like, I had to be out watching for you, but now that Odetta's back, we got to go. And you got to go without me first. Take the wheelchair, take her, go. And so that's what we see here. And then that last little part there, Eddie hadn't wanted to leave him. It wasn't just that cat screaming in the night, although he kept thinking about it. It was simply that Roland had become his only touchstone in this world. He and Odetta didn't belong here.
And see, to me, that just feels so real because have you ever gone to like a strange party or get together with like a friend and it's basically just their friends there? And like, if you're not with your friend, you're suddenly just in this spot where you're like, I don't know anyone here.
Like, exactly.
I don't know this house. I don't know any of these people. It's a bizarre circumstance. I think that most of us have probably been in one time or another. And that's kind of what I think of when I hit a line like that, is like with like a touchstone, like we're not obviously traveling worlds in our lives, but like in a way we do, in terms of like, okay, well maybe a friend brings you into his other world, like that you don't really cross over with, and suddenly you're in a group of people you're not familiar with. Like that's kind of where my head goes, is like, oh yeah, okay, Eddie, I can get it. Although obviously with his it's multiplied because it is another completely different world with different creatures and different everything.
No, and I actually had one of those experiences with you when we first started hanging out in high school. You remember inviting me over to watch a wrestling pay-per-view for the first time?
No.
I came over, we watched one of the WrestleManias. And it was with you, your cousin, your dad was there and everything. And a couple other people, but I was like the newest wrestler watcher. And I was completely out of my element. I thought I knew wrestling. And then I started hearing like you and your dad talking about legendary matches between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and everything. I just realized I'm totally out of my element here. I'm just going to sit down, shut up, and for everyone who's listening to this podcast knows, that's hard for me to do.
That's true.
Yes, it is.
And I'm sure it's happened the other way too. I feel like there's been times that maybe we've hung out with like
for sure,
the whole groups of your friends that I didn't know, and it was
Yeah.
just like, oh well, I don't know anyone here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely an interesting reality that we all face. But yeah, it's interesting to see how Eddie looks at it though with that, with Roland, as his touchstone. Like I don't know. I guess like. I guess for me, it was a realization that he does have more self-awareness. Not that I doubt that he would, but it's just one of those things that it may be easy to overlook in all the trouble that's been happening.
Yeah.
To overlook the fact that you are in a strange world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of one of those, like, wait until the bomb is diffused and you're able to, like, just sit down and breathe easy.
Yeah.
And then go, oh, shit, I'm in a different world,
Yeah.
Like, so it's easy to overlook those things and, like, with everything that's been going on. So it's maybe it's part of his sharpening senses and everything, and whatever, to understand that still kind of in the middle of, you've got a ticking time bomb of Roland's sickness that could leave him without a touchstone.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, I'm a little bit further down. It says he could have died for such a smile, and thought he would if circumstances demanded, which, I mean, just kind of we're going into, like, now that Odetta's back, we're kind of getting kind of Eddie's feelings for her. Like, we kind of dealt with, like, him in previous couple previous episodes, him basically dealing with the not having her and having to deal with Odetta and just wishing so hard, like, to get her back type thing, because he was falling in love with her in the small time that he had with her. So now this is almost like, feels to me like kind of the payoff. Like, you show him there, like, completely removed from having the person that he is falling in love with, and he has to have this horrible replacement, and now to kind of give it back to him, it kind of gives that payoff of, like, okay, all that time and all that misery with Detta now kind of pays off, and he's reflecting on his feelings for her. And
Yeah.
I don't know, gives us a clue as the audience into where his head is at, with this whole thing.
For sure.
What do you got next?
Actually, just a little bit further down. So right here, Eddie and Odetta are talking about her resting because of her stomach being sick and everything like that is what she has in her head. He says to stop pumping and put her hands. And she said, and then it goes, she put her hands in her lap and went on, and he went on pushing. The tracks the chair left behind were now dimmer. The beach had become steadily firmer, but it was also littered with rubble that could cause an accident. You wouldn't have to help one happen at the speed they were going. Sorry. A really bad accident might hurt Odetta, and that would be bad. Such an accident could possibly wreck the chair, and that would be bad for them, and probably worse for the gunslinger, who would almost surely die alone. And if Roland died, they would be trapped in this world forever. So right there, that's an indication that, I don't know if we're thinking from Odetta or Eddie's point of view here, really.
Yeah.
We're more of like from a outside fourth perspective, not Roland, not Eddie, not Odetta, that we're getting a fourth perspective that's saying that they're still looking like Odetta and Eddie are looking to go home.
Yeah.
Roland talked about the quest and the Dark Tower with Eddie a little bit ago, but it still looks like that they still want to go back to their when and their where.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting to see that here this far into the book, like you talked about at the beginning of the episode, 70% basically through the book, but it's still looking like these two still do want to go home.
Yeah. And that is, I remember thinking that because it's one of those things, like, from a reader's perspective, you look at it and go, well, these are obviously for his journey based on everything that we know. But you kind of are still waiting to see, like, are they going to buy in, or are they going to try to go back to Earth? Or are they going to, or are they going to be constantly, like, I don't know, just like what's a relationship going to be here, even if they were to be going through the whole journey, like, you just assume that they are, but it's a matter of, like, are they going to be happy about it, or are they going to be constantly, like, basically bitter and resentful towards Roland for pulling them out of their world?
Which is very interesting when you look at all the different adventure stories. I brought it up earlier, an 80s or 90s adventure story for kids and stuff. When do you ever see someone get pulled into another world who's like, no, you've got to send me home. Like, I don't want any part of this. No, you're the chosen one. Okay, let's go do it. You always see that kind of like gung-ho-ness.
Yeah.
Here, you get a little bit more realistic telling here of what two people would be like if they were pulled into a strange world.
Yeah.
With creatures coming out of the ocean.
Yeah.
Trying to eat you and everything like that.
Crustaceans from hell.
Yeah, basically. Did a chick. And everything like that. So it's really kind of, it's I wouldn't say refreshing, but it's really kind of interesting to see King tell it versus like what other people have.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, we've all read stories like that. We've all seen movies and TV shows like that where, someone's out of place.
Yeah.
But they're the chosen one.
Yeah.
They're that one that's gonna bring balance to the force, or whatever.
And I feel like generally, if you're going to have someone that gets pulled into a different world that you want to be comfortable in it, you make them really uncomfortable in their original world, like Neo in the Matrix. You never get a sense in that first act before he gets pulled out of the Matrix that he's happy or content with life as it is. So he's fully willing to enter the other world.
Follow the white rabbit.
Yeah. Whereas like with Eddie and Susanna, neither of them have. You could maybe argue Eddie has pretty much lost everything from his other world. But it was all happened so fast that he had seconds to decide.
But it also happened as a result of Roland.
Yeah.
Take Roland out of the equation. The eyes never change. The stewardess never gets any whiff of a suspicion from Eddie. He probably clears the customs ritual.
So you think he does?
I probably think he does.
Okay, because I still think there's a lot of chance that he could get sniffed out somehow.
I think with Balazar's men being the ones who taped it and fitted him with the shirt and with the time period, I think he gets through. I think the only thing that kind of throws the wrench into it is the eye change, the suspicion.
Yeah.
The stewardess.
I would say in my head, again, not that I was necessarily around in that time period in a way to be conscious to know what airport security was, but assuming I would probably give him a 65% chance to make it through. So that's not great odds. But yeah, once you add the Roland variable in,
Boom.
Those dwindle away quite quickly.
Yeah. So when I look at Eddie's losses come as a result of him getting grabbed. Him getting grabbed as a result of Roland showing up. Roland doesn't show up. We don't know for sure if Eddie gets caught.
Yeah.
I assume that he doesn't. He delivers the goods. Him and Henry, they go on their merry way.
But I guess it's one of those things too. Like, is Henry going to overdose shortly after?
No, they only grabbed Henry because Eddie got
but
grabbed.
it doesn't mean that he wouldn't still.
No, that's true. That's true. But I think that the overdose is simply because he didn't have Eddie there. Because Eddie was watching out for Henry there and taking care of him.
Yeah.
He was a vet. He was disabled. That's what Eddie says, is that I had to take care of him.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so big to get Odetta through the second doors, because then he had someone to take care of.
Yeah.
Again.
After Roland is getting better.
Yeah, Henry's dead. Roland got better. Now he has Odetta, who's been kidnapped by Roland. They're both hostages. They can be in this together. He's already starting to fall in love with her, like you mentioned earlier this episode.
Yeah.
And we mentioned it the last 2 or 3 episodes where since we've had her in this world, that he's falling in love with her. So he's gone from one person to the other, but he was taking care of Henry as my original.
Yeah.
And the people who were watching Henry were not taking care of him. They were just trying to keep him quiet, keep him comfortable, so they just kept shooting him up and he overdosed.
Yeah.
Would that happen with Eddie watching him? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think Eddie would have been on top of it. He would have been like, no, dude, we've shot up too much. That's enough. We're not going to overdose. We're not that bad.
If nothing else, he can get the old Pulp Fiction scene going and get a hypodermic needle
in the heart. Yeah.
Now, when you were reading this first time, do you recall at all at this point here, like having almost that tension of Detta? Like here, I mean, she's gone now.
Yeah.
But like just kind of one of those things, like because I remember, I don't remember exactly what point, but it may have been around here when we're back to Odetta, is the idea of just like, even more than when we were dealing with Detta, was just the idea of like, is this what this whole fucking series is going to be? Is like just constantly waiting for the shoe to drop and have like this character flip and flop between these two, and like I didn't know how like that could work. Like I remember being like somewhat like, even like I said, even at this point, like I wasn't even able to enjoy like the quote unquote peace that we're getting right here, because there's still part of me that's just like, she's just going to come back.
So I had a similar thought, but just a little bit different. She came back, right? Literally for like 3 sentences, like finally something. Fuck, Roland's down. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
It was like seriously like from one thing going right to another thing going horribly wrong. And you're absolutely right. Even though something went right, there's a dark rain cloud over there going,
Yeah.
I'm waiting, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
Just wait for me to get over here a little bit more, and I'm going to drop that shit right on your head.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it felt for me reading through this, and it just was like, Jesus Christ, like,
and for me,
how
just,
much adversity can these people overcome?
Yeah, and I just look at it like, knowing there was multiple books ahead of me and stuff, like, like kind of thinking like Lord of the Rings. It's like, well, Lord of the Rings didn't really have like some person that was going to flip and flop between good and evil on a whim and just start to try to fucking murder everyone. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, God, how in God's name is this going to work, man? Like there's almost like a defeated aspect to me where I'm like, is this even like, not that I was like doubting, because I'm full hook, line, and sinker into it by this point.
Oh, yeah, by this
but
point,
it's one of those ones where I'm just like, God, is this really going to be this miserable, this whole, like,
right?
Because I love Detta now, but I certainly didn't early on.
Oh, no.
So
we've covered that you hated her the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
First couple times, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, more than that. I'd probably say up until we were in the course of this podcast when I did the reread, when I finally realized like how much I loved not only just the humor of what she says most of the time, but also her toughness.
Yeah.
That, there's certainly a vast difference between Odetta and Detta in terms of if I'm going to live in a world with lobstrosities and God knows what else. I mean, speaking demons, what have we seen so far, right? We've seen everything we've seen is not great. Slow muties, it's certainly not.
Just look at Tull for example.
Yeah,
it's not a great place to live.
Yeah. So there's just part of me. It's like, I think if I honestly had, even though I don't like Detta because she's a danger to like the main characters, there's still part of me. It's like I could maybe see Odetta being as much of an issue because. If she's just this, prissy, I can't get my fingernails dirty type person, like how in God's name are they going to put up with,
slow mutants,
the cat howl that we're hearing in the distance? There was this point where I'm just like, I wasn't able to enjoy any of this, like, quote unquote, like respite that like Eddie is experiencing because I was just like, looking at it from a perspective of like, yes, she's gonna come back.
Why are you excited? You're fucked.
Yeah, it's like, and then with Roland gone, like now at some point you're gonna have to like sleep. There's gonna be times where you're letting your guard down that she could change, and then there was just like, that's the way my mind went, where I'm just like, and then again, like I started to extrapolate to the whole series. Where I'm like, what in God's name is gonna happen here? But yeah, again, not that I was doubting because I was certainly sold out at this point. For me, it was pretty much the airplane. That was the point where I was just like, oh, a doorway into our world in an airplane. I am into this fucking. I'm here.
It was the for me it was the customs agents. I think not the where were they? DEA or were they customs agents? Where they were interrogating Eddie.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what branch they were, but those guys and his conversations and figuring out how to. The fact that him and Roland worked together, I was like, okay, this ought to be good.
Yeah.
Seeing these two, how well they're oil and water, they're so vastly different. I'm okay for this kind of thing. It's always good to get that buddy cop kind of feel.
Yeah.
And everything. But then we just added more to it with the second door, and I was just like, all right, I'm already sold, but keep adding it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, indeed. Travis in the chat says, I never really thought of the despair in their situation this early on in the book. It's pretty intense. Yeah. And like for me, again, like I was just one of those things, just knowing that it was a series. Like if I had read this real time, it would have been different. But when I read this, I knew that there was at least, 4 or 5 more books ahead of me. Like, so I just kind of knew, like, going into this series, like this is a huge series. There's multiple books. This is King's like huge fucking work. This is the Mount Everest of King's work. I was always kind of seeing things through that paradigm of like, trying to like extrapolate into the future and just be like, okay, well I got Roland. Okay, well now you got Jake. Oh shit, no you don't. And then
whoops,
now you got Eddie. And so I was just like, how is this going to project? And like, certainly with Detta and Odetta, I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, and not to cut away from the intensity of what's going on, but there was part of me where I'm just like, I don't know how this is going to fucking work, dude. This is like frustrating. Yeah. Like, cause I don't know how you could ever put up with this and how this is like, cause there's like, giving people obstacles and hardships, but like I feel like there's overdoing it, and at this point in my head I'm thinking it's overdoing. I don't know how the hell they're gonna like handle this long term.
For sure.
Because my God, like she hasn't yet tried to stop killing them. Basically,
yeah.
like,
until this chapter, basically.
No, I mean the Detta portion.
The Detta portion. No, she hasn't.
She's like, it's not like we're seeing her kind of like softening to the circumstance or softening to them. Like, no, she is just plain old going to like try to kill them at every turn. So yeah, I remember just thinking like, okay, sorry Eddie, I know you're in a little happy place at the moment, but like
you're fucked.
I'm waiting for this other shoe to drop because it's like Chekhov's gun type thing, right?
Well, no, that's the thing is like you're absolutely right about Chekhov's gun, which is the principle that if you see a gun in the first act, it has to be fired by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And with this here, we've seen the switch now twice.
Yeah.
Going from Odetta to Detta, now Detta back to Odetta, and it's like, okay,
let's
see the switch again.
Yeah,
like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Especially with what we see here. Like he's already talked once about Roland has about if she changes back Brainer. Don't wait, just do it.
Yeah,
and it's not the first time.
Yeah,
it's not the last time they're going to talk about it either.
Yeah,
and so
plus we had all the backstory with Andrew and the doorman at the building
talking about the switches.
It's just one of those things. Like this isn't a new thing. Yeah, it was just so ingrained where I'm just like, okay, cool. This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's interesting too because if you want to be actually technical, we technically have Detta to start with, and then it switches to Odetta when they come through the door. Because Detta's the one that's stealing at Macy's.
Yeah, yeah.
So
we saw Odetta in the car going into her like apartment late at night type. So we kind of saw both characters on our side.
Yeah.
But you're right. In terms of from Roland's perspective, it's pretty much been Detta, Odetta, Detta, now Odetta. So you definitely have a easy pattern to pick out. Although there's no pattern in terms of time. Not that King is giving us any kind of too much in terms of time. He's not like giving us like, oh, it's now 5 o'clock, and like to where you could like set up an easy pattern to go, oh well, she changes at midnight or whatever.
Yeah, by midnight she's going to be changing back into Detta.
Yeah, not that we want that. I mean, I'm just saying in terms of like that's not something that he chose to do, and I'm glad he didn't. But like they're not giving us a pattern to know, like to be able to anticipate it. We just know that like it's coming at some point.
Well, they even cover that. Yeah, they even cover that earlier on with like what you were talking about with Andrew, her driver, and everything. Sometimes it would be days. Sometimes it had been weeks.
Yeah,
and so it's interesting to see that there's different time.
But then we saw the ambulance, and we see that maybe with trauma it happens way more often.
And
this is traumatic. What's going on is traumatic.
That's what happened going from Macy's into Roland's world.
Yeah,
we saw a switch because of the trauma there.
Yeah.
So
and this is traumatic being in this world too. So that maybe is causing her to flip way more common than she would have if she was able to leave Macy's and go about her merry day.
Yep.
So next up, I have the tail end of this subchapter. It says, with Roland too sick and weak to walk, Eddie had been forced to face one simple fact. There were 3 people here, and 2 of them were crippled. So what hope? What chance was there? The chair. The chair was the hope, the whole hope, and nothing but the hope. So help them God. Which is definitely an interesting thing. Because, I mean, earlier on, we were kind of like lamenting the chair in terms of the fact that it does come from the 60s. Like, it's very
big and bulky,
heavy. But now when you add this into it, I think for me, it dawned on me reading the first time where I'm just like, oh yeah, I guess the chair is really fucking important. Like, even though it's like kind of shitty, and maybe it's good that it's bulky and robust
sturdy.
Because
it's very sturdy,
less prone to breaking perhaps than maybe a newer one would. So that gets us into subchapter 2. What do you got for 2?
Right here at the beginning, it says the gunslinger had regained consciousness shortly after Eddie dragged him into the shade of a rock outcropping. His face, where it was not ashy, was a hectic red. His chest rose and fell rapidly. His right arm was a network of twisting red lines. So again, not good.
Yeah,
we're in a bad situation here.
Yeah.
Feed her, he croaked at Eddie. You never mind me. I'll be all right. Feed her. She'll eat now, I think, and you'll need her strength. Roland, what if she's just pretending to be? The gunslinger gestured impatiently. She's not pretending to be anything except alone in her body. I know it, and you do too. It's in her face. Feed her for the sake of your father, and while she eats, come back to me. Every minute counts now. Every second. So it's just interesting to see that Eddie still has his doubts.
Yeah.
Even though we're talking about a man who says that he's falling in love with someone. Even though he sees her, he still has his doubts that, okay, is this a trick? Is this a ploy? And everything like that. And Roland puts his worries to bed. No. This is not a ploy. Come on. Seconds matter here.
Yeah.
Let's get going.
Yeah. And I love the that idea. She's not pretending to be anything except alone in her body.
Right.
Because ultimately, yeah, like there is like a disconnect, both sides, whether you're talking about being in New York City or whether you're talking about being here, we basically get the idea that they fill the gaps. Like there is no gaps, like that was the part of the problem with Eddie telling the story to Odetta is that the last thing she remembered was watching the 11 o'clock news in her apartment. And next thing she knows, she's here and she's being told that no, you were in Macy's shoplifting. Like
she's like,
no. There's this like both sides. The mind overcomes the gaps to not understand. So in a way, almost unconsciously, it's both of them pretending to be one person.
For sure. And it actually is really important with what we got here next is Eddie got up and the gunslinger pulled him back with his left hand. Sick or not, his strength was still there. So that's good that his strength is still there. He's not that weak.
Yeah.
But then Roland says, and say nothing about the other. Whatever she tells you, however she explains, don't contradict her. And it's italicized, don't contradict her. Why? I don't know. I just know it's wrong. Now do as I say, don't waste any more time. So we see Roland understand that aspect, that she doesn't have blank spots.
Yeah.
She has it filled in with fake memories.
Yeah.
And he says, don't contradict her. Just roll with it.
Well, and he has some information that we haven't really been revealed yet. He saw something as we were going through the door, and it's alluded to. We've been alluded to that he kind of even has an epiphany about what it meant, but we as an audience haven't been informed of what that is. He hasn't told Eddie, so nobody but Roland knows at this point what that is. So like with some of this stuff, it makes me think back to that where, like he saw something and it bothered him very early on coming through the door of like, God, what was it? It was so important. And then like we kind of got that end of a subchapter, I recall it being, where it kind of gives us the idea that, yeah, he finally figured out why what he saw, whatever it was important, but we don't know what the hell that is. So as we see this, it's like, okay, well, it gave me hope as a reader because I'm like, okay, because that kind of shit bothers me. Whenever like it's a TV show, a movie, like if a character knows something and like it's like this big moment for them, like, and if I don't know it, it pisses me off because I'm just like, don't be fucking coy. I mean, especially with movies and TVs, like books, it's a little bit different because, with, I don't know, sometimes you're more orchestrated with novels to like whatever. But a lot of times with movies, it always just feels forced to me. And there's just part of me that's like, just fucking let me know. I don't need like this, like moment of like, see, we're so brilliant because we hid this information from you and then gave you this big surprise.
It was it's something that happened with me when I was reading the Da Vinci Code the first time. Remember that puzzle trying to follow Da Vinci's clues and everything like that? I remember reading it the first time and I got about 3/4 of the way through and there's like that mystery person in the book. I'm not going to spoil the book.
Yeah.
But it really just kind of pissed me off because it's like, okay, it's only a mystery because you're not fucking telling us. But why include them if it's going to be a mystery?
Yeah, like, because I feel like there's real mysteries. It's kind of there's real mysteries and there's like mysteries I feel that are just cheap because they don't give you all the clues.
Yeah, because like if you're seeing it from one person's perspective, if you take something like the Harry Potter series, right? In the second book, there's a mystery. There's something going on at the school and there's a mystery, but you don't get these cheap ass. A dark figure walked down the hallway. No, you see everything from one character's point of view, which is Harry.
Yeah.
You don't see it first person, but you see it kind of like how the Dark Tower is told.
Yeah.
Roland walked up the beach. Eddie walked beside him.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
And you get internal like thoughts.
You get internal thoughts and stuff like that. Exactly. Harry thought this and felt this and everything like that. But you don't get that the dark figure walked and did this, and now you don't know what to think because who could that dark figure be? Could it be Harry? Could it be Roland? Could it be? It could be anyone.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily hate that way of storytelling. It has a place.
Yeah, it does have its place.
But there's a better way of telling mysteries.
Yeah.
Than showing us things that the main character can't see. Yeah. That's the part that gets me, and that's what the Da Vinci Code had.
Yeah.
Is that, yes, there was interactions that were important for characters with that shadowy figure that had to happen, or the shadowy figure ran away and got away or something like that. But a better mystery story to me is one where Rear Window.
Yeah.
You see everything that the main character sees. You don't get glimpses into the house that he's spying on without him being there.
Yeah.
You're not seeing what he's not seeing.
Yeah.
which would ruin the effect of that movie. How great is Rear Window?
Yeah, and there's like
Right?
Sixth Sense, Saw.
Yes.
There's a lot of movies out there that have like kind of mysteries, but like you're given everything you need, and I think that's one of those things that once you get a reveal, you're able to go back and
Enjoy the
watch
movie
it
a second time.
and see like, oh shit, yeah, like all the clues are there. Now, I will say like I'm not like so against it again with novels usually, because like something like this, like it pisses me off. I'm only saying in a way of like because I want to know, like when Roland has that eureka moment earlier on in the book, and like we don't hear what it is, like that pisses me off because I'm like, just tell me what it is, like,
right?
You know, but I get from the whatever, but I do like these kind of things where we finally get a hint of, you know, what, like, I don't know, that there's something he's plotting something, or he's got some idea.
Yeah. And the thing the King is so good about is that a lot of times, and I've talked about this before, not only on book clubs but also on roundtables. And this isn't I'm not gonna talk about anything specific except what we've talked about here. Because there are examples in the first half of this book and in the Gunslinger that are perfect examples of what I'm talking about. King likes to spoil his own story sometimes.
Yeah.
Certain parts of it by telling you a line.
Yeah.
And then jumping back 5 minutes.
Yeah, or just saying like, and it's the last time he ever talked to that person, you know, even
something
though
like that. Yeah, that's the last time he ever saw that person alive. He does that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh God, well, wait a minute, which one of these fuckers is gonna die?
Yeah.
Is it him or is it her? What?
Yeah.
Wait, what's going on here?
Which I do. I love that kind of stuff. But it's just one of those, like, especially because of the time they spent on like Roland trying to remember, like, what was it I saw? Why was it important? And then he like just hits him like a lightning bolt. I think it says, or it says it's like one of the, like when lightning comes and it illuminates the whole landscape.
Yes.
You know, and like, so to just have all that built up and then not to get like a payoff then, just the childish part of me is like, I want the payoff now, motherfuckers. But that's just me. With this getting like the, you know, him kind of giving like Eddie like instructions that feel very specific, it makes me feel better of like, okay, because it for me, especially first time reading through, like now, like maybe not, but like when I'm reading through the first time, like that shit's in the back of my fucking head, like not even back, it's in my head where I'm like, I know that was like 30, 40 pages ago, but like he had a revelation. What was it, motherfucker? So like to get this, it's like, okay, cool, it's giving me something. Like it's like to finally get that little clue where you're like, okay, you know, but then, you know, obviously we don't get anything reveal here, but yeah, that's I guess where my mind is at with stuff.
And for me, it's like the great storytelling. It's dumb to compare it to Great Mysteries, but Travis says in the chat that he likes Shutter Island and says that it blew him away.
Yeah.
I've still never actually seen that movie.
Really?
I've heard about it. I've never actually watched it, and it actually has not been spoiled for me. So
okay.
I need to watch it sometime.
I swear you and I saw that, but that's
we missed it somehow. But
okay.
For me,
I don't remember who I saw in theaters with then.
One of the ones that I don't know how you feel about this movie, but for me, it's one of the great things that made this aspect of this movie was great was The Hangover.
I haven't seen that,
dude. If you want to miss, it's a stupid, dumb comedy.
So let me just say just to give some frame of reference, I'm listening to a podcast right now on screenwriting.
Yeah,
and it's two screenwriters. One of them is the one that wrote The Hangover. So
that's awesome.
I've been hearing a lot about it, and like it's like I'm listening to like their back catalog. So he's like writing like the third movie right now.
Yeah.
So like I keep hearing about The Hangover, and there's all these different things. But so it's just funny that you bring it up. But
no, that's awesome. But The Hangover is a perfect example of what we're talking about.
It's a mystery.
It's dude. So here's how the movie goes. Okay, a bunch of guys go to Vegas. They're on the roof of their hotel, and they make a pact to have an amazing night before one of them. It's the bachelor party, right? Literally, what it does is it fast forwards like a long shot, long exposure where you see like the cars moving really fast.
Yeah.
The moon goes, the sun comes up, and it literally goes inside the hotel, and you wake up with oh shit, what's his name?
Andy?
Andy from The Office.
Nard Dog?
Nard Dog from The Office literally wakes up on the floor, and they don't remember anything. And they literally piece together their night before. That's what The Hangover is.
Okay.
So you get it from their perspective. You find out things in real time with them. It doesn't cheapen out and show you things like we're talking about.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really brilliant that they took that and made a comedy out of it, because it's a memorable comedy and everything like that. So it's something that what we're talking about here is that they don't cheapen out. But with this one, I feel it's a little bit different because Didn't Roland have... I got to ask you this because I don't remember it as well as you do, probably. Didn't Roland say that he saw it but then it slipped his mind when it flashed out. Like his realization when he came through the door is he saw it, but he doesn't remember it.
No, I think he's maybe it was a memory thing, but I feel like he didn't fully grasp it. Was kind of how I remember it. Is
Right.
like is kind of one of those things where like maybe you saw something, but you didn't like fully. I mean, maybe that's just me inserting it in my head, but like that's kind of how I got it. Maybe it was that he kind of forgot it in like the whole thing. But it is certainly one of those things though that it takes a little bit before we kind of get that moment where he's able to, I don't know, like have that moment, but we just haven't seen it pay off yet. But I do love kind of getting these breadcrumbs where it's like, okay, cool, you haven't like forgotten. Not that I expect King to forget, but it is one of those things where you're, as a reader, where you're like, I don't know, like not that you don't trust the author, but there is things where as an author or a screenwriter, whoever it is, they have to earn your trust, you know. And if they do things that like whatever, like they lose your trust, and then you're like piecing out of the movie or the book. And like so with here, it's just like, you know, King, don't fuck me on this, like that you gave like that huge moment that we didn't get payoff for, right?
The more frustrating mystery type thing is when someone has a mystery happen to them. Like I'm reading 11/22/63 right now. It's where something happens partway through the book, so that person all of a sudden has a mystery, but you know all the answers.
Yeah.
So they're like, wait, where am I supposed to go? And it's like, motherfucker, you're supposed to go to Dallas.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go to fucking Dallas, you shit.
Go to Dealey Plaza.
Hey, I'm supposed to do something on November 5th in 63? No, motherfucker, it's 11/22/63 for a reason. What the fuck are you doing? That's the one I hate. Those are the ones that I absolutely hate. Is when I have the answers, and I have to listen to the main character make an ass of himself.
Yeah,
it's one thing like the Da Vinci Code to keep it still a mystery, and a secret that I'm not figuring out the puzzles. It's worse when you give me the answers. What is the answer to this puzzle? It's 4, motherfucker. The answer is 4. How the fuck do you not see that? Those mysteries are the ones that really piss me off.
Yeah.
Not that I hate 11/22/63. It works for the story.
Yeah.
And it works for the plot and everything like that. But the mysteries that are wholly centered around that, where you have the answers going in.
Yeah.
Like, some of the ones that are hard for me are ones like real life crime stories.
Yeah.
Where it's like, dude, it's fucking Bundy. How the fuck do you not realize that Ted Bundy is fucking murdering people? Well, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Even in the fictitious realm, though, it could be used really effectively. I think of like Silence of the Lambs.
Builds tension.
With us knowing more than the characters, there's a scene in that movie fairly toward the end where a character enters into a situation that they're not aware of the situation that they're in, but we as an audience are way more aware, and it makes it one of the most tense scenes in cinema history, really.
For sure.
I mean, so I get what you're saying though, totally, because and we've talked about that before with like the whole idea of like tension. We've talked about it on this show, whether it's this or a round table, where it's like the idea of like either two people are talking at a table and a bomb goes off, and this is a Hitchcock thing, or you tell the audience that there's a bomb under the table and it's going to go off at 1:45 the hour, and you've got a clock on the wall.
Yep.
You got the package under the table, and you got the two people talking, because now suddenly that whole scene changes, because like there's a bomb there.
It's the surprise there's a bomb, or it's the oh fuck there's a bomb, oh fuck there's a bomb, oh fuck there's a bomb.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we're 5 minutes from the bomb, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck.
Yeah.
There's two different ways of storytelling there.
Yeah.
And so with
this one
though, he showed us the bomb.
Yeah.
But he didn't show us when it's going to go off.
He didn't tell us.
That's the difference there. That's the difference there. And that's what you're saying on your side, and that's not, I don't want to say complaint, but that's your critiquing of the situation, is that, yes, the camera panned down to show us the bomb, but there was a piece of tape over the
counter,
so you can't see how many minutes. It just shows the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 9, 8, and you're just like, motherfucker, I don't know when this is gonna go off. So that's your complaint, is if they do it that way.
Again, for me, it's not in this context. It's not even overly a complaint. It's more just like the first time it was frustrating.
Oh, for sure,
because I'm just like, you didn't give me that information. Like,
it's almost like for me, what the problem I had is that you actually brought it up already. I was going to touch on it then, and I forgot. Thanks for reminding me. Is the Odetta and Detta change? That we don't have it mapped out.
Yeah.
That it's random. That bothered me the first time I read this.
Yeah.
Well, when is she going to change back? Is she going to change back? Is she going to change back now?
Yeah.
What about later? When is it going to happen? How do I know when it's going to happen? I don't know when it's going to happen because he's not telling me when it's going to happen. It's not fucking regular. That's bullshit. It should be regular. Every 12 hours, every 14 hours, every 2 days. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And then going down here, When Eddie offered chunks of lobster left over from the previous night, she smiled ruefully. I would if I could, she said, but you know what happens. Eddie, who had no idea what she was talking about, could only shrug and say, it wouldn't hurt to try again, Odetta. You need to eat. We've got we got to go as fast as we can. So I love that because now you put him in this awkward situation where, Roland kind of gives him like, it's just like one of those, like, don't look up. And now we gotta watch the character trying as hard as they can not to look up, or don't think about elephants, like it's just, I love that kind of stuff. Not that it's being played for humor, but it's kind of one of those like awkward things for him now where he's gonna have to like try as hard as he can not to like tip his hand that, and we don't know how good he is at lying yet. I mean, I guess like being a drug addict and a smuggler, like that, especially the way that he's been played with it, like it wasn't that he was like this mastermind. He's basically being used because he has a more agreeable face than maybe Jack Andolini.
Sure.
But
he held his own against the agents and even going face to face with Balazar. I would say that about him.
Threatening versus friendly though. Because like in this case, he's having to lie to someone that he's friendly with versus someone that like he's basically fighting for his life and freedom.
That's true.
I guess versus like Roland. If it was Roland, I would have no concern. I'm like, okay, he'll be able to hold his own. Even in a weakened state, he'll be able to like hold up and not tip his hand. Eddie though, there's always this tension for him where I'm like, is he gonna say something wrong? But that's just me. What do you got next in this subchapter?
So right here he has her try it one more time. For you, she smiled and felt all the world move. No, he felt all the world move for her because of her and thought, please God, I have never had much, so please don't take her away from me again, please. Which of course you're not you're asking that in a fucking Stephen King novel.
Yeah.
Dude. Like, come on.
It's like being in a horror movie and saying, I'll be right back.
Dude,
I need to go investigate a strange noise.
I just finished having sex, smoking pot, and having a beer. I'm going to go investigate that strange noise.
And then say, hello, is someone there?
Write that off, motherfucker. Being the best friend of the main character as well. That's just like, or boyfriend/girlfriend. I mean, just write yourself. Order your tombstone.
Yeah.
Pick out your dresser suit. You're done.
Yeah, because King is a brutal motherfucker.
Oh, he is so brutal.
So yeah, you definitely think about that in context of who you're reading.
Yep.
Yes, but go on. What were you?
She took the chunk of lobster meat, wrinkled her nose in a rueful comic expression, and looked up at him. Must I? Just give it a shot, he said. I never ate scallops again, she said. Pardon? I thought I told you. You might have, he said, and gave a little nervous laugh. What the gunslinger had said about not letting her know about the other loomed very large inside his mind just then. We had them for dinner one night when I was 10 or 11. I hated the way they tasted, the little rubbery balls, and later I vomited them up and I never ate them again. But, she sighed, as you say, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and again, just like his nervous laughter there makes me just nervous, I guess. So then she eats it, and then starts wolfing it down. He tells her to slow down, and then she says here, where we kind of get it to fill in the gaps here, what from her mind. She says, it must be another kind. That's it, of course. She looked at Eddie shiningly. We moved further up the beach, and the species has changed. I'm no longer allergic, it seems. It doesn't taste nasty like it did before, and I did try to keep it down, didn't I? She looked up at him nakedly. I tried very hard. Yeah, to himself, he sounded like a radio broadcast, with a very distant signal. She thinks she's been eating every day and then upchucking everything. She thinks that's why she's so weak. Christ almighty. And then he says, yeah, you tried like hell. So, again, Eddie kind of rolling with the punches. And for us, it's kind of filling in the gaps, right? We've seen this a couple times now.
Yeah.
But this is good for King to give us because this is one of those things, if he hadn't put it in, I don't know that it would have bothered me initially. But I think at some point the light bulb would have went off my head and I would have went, wait a minute, how does she not realize that she's like emaciated? And so I'm glad he has this in here because it's just one of those things like, okay, like a lot of us are not privy to what that would be like. So give us how it works. And that's the way it works basically.
And it's a great way of covering for herself when you look at it. It's like, oh, I'm allergic. That's why I've been throwing up. And that's why I'm so weak. And it's like,
yeah. Just
that's why you're so weak.
Yeah, and just like Detta, we saw her memory about what she thought with Roland and Eddie
poison meat and then pulling out chunks of beef and eating that, trying to tease her with it to make her bite for it and everything.
Yeah. So this is kind of seeing the other side of it and seeing like how Odetta is reconciling what has to be, like I said, like probably getting emaciated, weak, fatigued. There's got to be a number of things going on with her with the lack of food for, I don't know, how long do you think's gone now since she's been pulled through?
It's been at least a few days because there's the night that she changed and tried to kill them. Then there's the night where she screamed.
Yeah. And
then there's a couple other nights after that. So a few days at least.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a good while not to eat. That's for sure. And then Travis in the chat says, Roland's wisdom is paramount here. Would Eddie have tried to play along on his own?
He probably would have argued and said, look, there's proof that you have gaps in your memory. You're not sick. You're eating the same fucking thing that we were eating days ago.
Yeah.
You just refused to do it because you weren't you. You were Detta. And that would have just been very, very bad.
Yeah, because, I mean, ultimately, without Roland giving him that knowledge, like, would he know that would be a danger, right? Like, I don't know how much he's privy to like multiple personality disorder and like the fact that it is covering up the gaps and not being aware. Because I mean, there's some people that like it's in some cases that whatever there's an awareness, I guess, and with that not being here, I don't know that he would have known enough to not just say something, even just glibly, and potentially blow whatever it is that Roland is plotting. So next up, I got at the end of the subchapter here. This is her talking. She says, "Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for being so patient, and thank him." It says in italics there. She paused gravely. "Thank him, and don't tell him that he scares me." "I won't," Eddie said, and he went back to the gunslinger. So yeah, it's now that she's eating and stuff, he's gonna go and converse with Roland, and we kind of get a sense here. We certainly know that we got a lot of information that Detta is certainly not fond of Roland, but to see here now, Odetta is all. I mean, not that I think she was kind of so about him that first portion, but
she flat out admitted that first portion that he's terrified her.
So that's but I like this because I think it gives a lot about her character. Don't tell him that he scares me. So she is at least somewhat concerned. She doesn't want to come off like. I guess maybe that's politeness is how I would read that. Like she wants to be polite because she wants to thank him and she really doesn't want him to know how she feels. And I don't think that's because like I don't know, it's a danger to her or anything. It's more just like to be polite almost is how I interpret it. So good point though, Travis. Yeah, I don't think that Eddie, and I don't think it's to his fault either. I wouldn't blame him if he would if he were to kind of upset the apple cart in this case because
when you look at it also with the conversation that they had when she first came through the door and everything like that, it just proves his point. And he thinks that it's going to do good to make her realize that. He doesn't realize that it could be very bad if that happens, which is what Roland said in not so many words, is that I know that she shouldn't know about this. I just know it. I got a feeling, something like that. I just know that she shouldn't be aware of that. And that's where Eddie doesn't have that thought. He just thinks, okay, well, I gotta fix this. I gotta fix her, because that's what a person in love tries to do. If someone has a problem that you love, you try to fix it. That's what at least
especially male perspective.
Well, especially someone like Eddie. That's one of the reasons why I relate to Eddie so much is because he's a lot like me. Taking care of people, having someone in your life like Henry and stuff like that is something that's always been there for me. That's something how I've always felt. You've known me now for a long, long time. I like being there for people. I like helping and stuff like that. So if someone is unwilling to accept help when I know exactly what would help them, it's hard. It's a tough situation for someone like me with that type of personality to let them basically lie to themselves that they're okay when you know that this one thing is going to help them.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, luckily for I guess all of us and him, it seems like he's moved past like the conversation with her about you accept that this is real. I feel like I don't know. I guess maybe she just does accept it now. I don't know. I guess that conversation never really resolved in a way that he liked. But yeah,
I think he realized it never goes into that. Spoiler, never goes into that, but I think he finally realizes that there's more important things into proving that he's right about that it's real, because Dead is gonna fucking kill him if he keeps arguing that point.
Yeah,
there are more important things to deal with than that. Roland's dying.
Yeah,
there's a lot more on the table than when she first came through the door.
Yeah, things have certainly changed. And Travis says, I agree. I think he would have argued the point, and that's his character. Yeah. Definitely. Character, I guess what defines a character are things that can't change and
how they handle that, the fact that they can't change it.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you got here in subchapter 3?
This goes along to your question earlier was how well Odetta was as a help. Even when she wasn't pushing, Odetta was a help.
Yeah.
Answers it pretty plainly right there. She navigated with the precision of a woman who had spent a long time weaving a wheelchair through a world that would not acknowledge handicapped people such as she for years to come. Left, she'd call, and Eddie would G. Does it say G in yours?
Yeah,
G to the left. Gliding past a rock, snarling out of the pasty grit like a decayed fang. On his own, he might have seen it, or maybe not. I don't know why, but I love the way that's, or maybe not.
Yeah. Now, when it says that when she wasn't pushing, so do you take that as her, like, rolling the wheels?
Yeah.
Which means that in a way,
because they covered that earlier in the previous subchapter, is he tells her to rest because she's weak, and she puts her hands in her lap.
Okay, so that would mean that would be the big part, is like if she's pumping the chair itself, all he has to really do is steer.
Yeah,
essentially, versus push. So
well, it's more of like she's adding to it, so he doesn't have to push as hard.
Yeah,
it's the big thing.
Yeah, shared, share the burden type thing.
Exactly.
Indeed. And then we go on with kind of right left, so she's kind of guiding. They finally stop. Eddie lays down, breathing hard. Sleep, Odetta said. An hour and I'll wake you. Eddie looked at her. I'm not lying. I observed your friend's condition, Eddie. And then Eddie cuts in. He's not exactly my friend yet, and then gets cut off here. She says, and I know how important time is. I won't let you sleep longer than an hour out of misguided sense of mercy. I can tell the sun quite well. You won't do that man any good by wearing yourself out, will you? No, he said, thinking, but you don't understand. If I sleep dead, a walker comes back. Sleep, Eddie, she said, and since Eddie was too weary and too much in love to do other than trust her, he did, and he slept, and she woke him when she said that she would, and she was still Odetta, and they went on, and now she was pumping again, helping. They raced up the diminished beach toward the door. Eddie kept frantically looking for and kept not seeing. So, I mean, this is like one of those things that you easily could have played this for more tension with him sleeping, but King pretty much glides over it pretty quickly. Because this easily could have been built for a tension moment of like, let that draw out a little bit because maybe Dana Walker does come back. I mean, Eddie does think about it here, but he definitely doesn't allow you the time to really like worry about it, which I guess is maybe a good thing. But it certainly could have been a tense thing. Maybe if it was just about, maybe this book was just about these three characters, maybe they would expand on that. He would expand on that further.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that would be nerve wracking for me. I don't know if I'd be able to sleep, to be honest with you. Even if I was like exhausted, like I think like the paranoia for me would be enough to like stop me from sleeping.
Yeah, it's like, hey, while I take this nap, do you mind just tying yourself back up for me real fast? What the fuck?
Yeah, indeed. It's like, yeah. Oh, yeah, I would be paranoid as all hell. I don't think I would be able to sleep. But that's just me. So what do you got for subchapter 4?
So it's interesting, and we got to call this out. We've kind of been bouncing around it, but we haven't called this out. When we started this subchapter, we're with Odetta and Eddie going down the beach.
Yeah. And
now this is the second time that we're jumping back to the previous conversation with Roland before they left him.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, again, an interesting way of Stephen King telling the story of Roland by having us jump from forward to back to forward to back again.
Almost non-linear.
Exactly.
Especially, I think with this chapter certainly is non-linear, and I think by calling it reshuffle, I think we as an audience should expect that. But yeah, you're right. If you're reading quickly here and you miss this first portion,
it's quite jarring.
It could be jarring, yeah.
So this jumps back to where, so basically if you go in and read every other subchapter, you're reading one concurrent story and then jump back and read the opposite subchapters, you'll get the continuation of the story, which is really interesting to read it that way. It reminds me a lot of like the way King tells that. He tells the whole novel like that, basically. Is that
Yeah.
it starts in 1958, but it also starts in 1985. Then we'll jump forward 3 months in 1958. Let's jump forward 3 months in 1985. Let's jump back to 58, 85, 58,
Yeah.
85. It's just interesting going back and forth. But this one is so much more frantic than that because it's not, the whole novel.
Yeah.
But it's just like this chapter here after we hit reshuffle is just interesting to see it jump like that. So the first part here where he says, it says, when he left Odetta eating her first meal in days and went back to the gunslinger, Roland seemed a little better. Hunker down, he said to Eddie. Eddie hunkered. Leave me the skin that's half full, all I need. Take her to the door. What if I don't? Find it? You'll find it. The first two were there. This one will be too. If you get there before sundown tonight, wait for dark and then kill double. You'll need to leave her food and make sure she's sheltered as well as she can be. If you don't reach it tonight, kill triple. Here. He handed over one of his guns. And so this is a big moment here because they're basically just leaving Roland. I mean, we've already seen that previously, but here's the part where Roland is the one to tell them to do this.
Yeah, it's like the departing moment of like, this is where we separate, basically.
Yeah, you and her got to go to the door. If you get there tonight, kill twice, leave food with her, shelter her, come back for me. If you don't get there until tomorrow night, kill triple, shelter her, come back for me.
Yeah.
And then he hands over one of his guns.
Yeah.
Which...
yeah, that's going to be tough. That actually leads us into a first sound clip here. So let's go ahead and take a listen to Mr. Muller real quick.
He handed over one of his guns. Eddie took it with respect, surprised, as before, by how heavy it was. I thought the shells were all losers. Probably are. But I've loaded with the ones I believe were wetted least. 3 from the buckle side of the left belt, 3 from the buckle side of the right. 1 may fire, 2 if you're lucky. Don't try them on the crawlies. His eyes considered Eddie briefly. Maybe other things out there. You heard it too, didn't you? If you mean something yowling in the hills, yes. If you mean the bugger man, as your eyes say, no. I heard a wildcat in the breaks, that's all. Maybe with a voice 4 times the size of its body. It may be nothing you can't drive off with a stick. But there's her to think about. If her other comes back, you may have to... I won't kill her, if that's what you're thinking. You may have to wing her. Understand? Eddie gave a reluctant nod. Goddamn shells probably wouldn't fire anyway, so there was no sense getting his panties in a bunch about it. When you get to the door, leave her. Shelter her as well as you can. Come back to me with the chair. And the gun? The gunslinger's eyes blazed so brightly that Eddie snapped his head back as if Roland had thrust a flaming torch in his face. Gods, yes! Leave her with a loaded gun when her other might come back at any time? Are you insane? The shells! Fuck the shells! The gunslinger cried, and a freak drop in the wind allowed the words to carry. Odetta turned her head, looked at them for a long moment, then looked back toward the sea. Leave it with her not. Eddie kept his voice low in case the wind should drop again. What if something comes down from the brakes while I'm on my way back here? Some kind of cat 4 times bigger than its voice instead of the other way around. Something you can't drive off with a stick. Give her a pile of stones, the gunslinger said. Stones? Jesus wept. Man, you are such a fucking shit. I am thinking, the gunslinger said, something you seem unable to do. I gave you the gun so you could protect her from the sort of danger you're talking about for half of the trip you must make. Would it please you if I took the gun back? Then perhaps you could die for her. Would that please you? Very romantic. Except then, instead of just her, all 3 of us would go down. Very logical. You're still a fucking shit, however. Go or stay. Stop calling me names. You forgot something, Eddie said furiously. What was that? You forgot to tell me to grow up. That's what Henry always used to say. Oh, grow up, kid. The gunslinger had smiled, a weary, oddly beautiful smile. I think you have grown up. Do you go or stay? I'll go, Eddie said. What are you going to eat? She scoffed the leftovers. The fucking shit will find a way. The fucking shit has been finding one for years. Eddie looked away. I guess I'm sorry I called you that, Roland. It's been... He laughed suddenly, shrilly. It's been a very trying day. Roland smiled again. Yes, said it has.
Yeah, so that's a good. I don't know. That's just
That's a great part. I love that part.
It is, yeah. And Frank does such a great job. It makes it hard sometimes not to use his performance. Yeah. And then Travis in the chat here. There's a picture of Roland holding out his guns and Eddie grabbing it, but having an awkward moment where Eddie is slightly trying to pull it from Roland's grasp, but Roland holding on because his soul is dying.
I love that. That's so good.
Yeah, I do. That's good. Well played. Yeah, so he's giving him a gun here, and Eddie again, maybe thinking more from the perspective of just focusing on Odetta alone, and certainly riling Roland up about potentially giving the gun to Odetta before making his trip back. And yeah, I don't know, just a good portion here. I love the nature of Roland versus the nature of Eddie is kind of like the maybe becoming the theme in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a good one here, and I love that tail end especially. Where
This
Roland
shit.
where Roland tells him stop calling me names. Like, how do you read that in terms of like, is that just Roland like whatever? Or do you think that like maybe it's actually getting to him that like?
No, I think it's still the same cold calculating some bitch that we've always seen in Roland, is that it's just like, dude, just enough beating around the bush, go or stay. Like, and he says it, will you go or are you going to stay? Like, what's it going to be?
Yeah.
Like, he just calls him out, basically, is what Roland does. He's just like, enough of this shit. Like, what are we going to do? What is this? And so for me, that's where it's, I love Roland's sense of humor, even though he's having basically an argument with Eddie, and Eddie's just pissing him off because, dude, how stupid can you be? I mean, like, even I'm an Eddie fanboy, and even me.
Yeah.
Dude, don't leave the fucking multiple personality I almost said schizo woman with a fucking gun.
Yeah.
Like, for fuck's sake, dude.
There was part of me reading this the first time that I just thought like, yeah, they're blanks or they're shells, they're empties.
Oh, like he did when she woke up that night?
Yeah, like I just because like, do you honestly at this point at all believe that Eddie's going to listen?
No.
Like, yeah, it's just one of those like, this is like one of those, I don't know, I don't even want to call it a trope because I don't think it's a bad thing. I just feel it just comes down to the nature of the characters. There's just no fucking way that Eddie's going to, not that he's like not listening to Roland out of spite, but it's just the nature of Eddie is the nature of Eddie, and I just have no, I remember just having no like thought at all that Eddie's gonna listen. Like she's gonna
him.
Yeah, no, she's gonna end up with a fucking gun. Like it was just, I remember thinking that, I'm like, God damn it. But yeah, such as it is, I guess. And then Roland obviously giving him a warm moment to say, to kind of grant him that I think you have grown up. Kind of a warm moment between the two as we kind of get at the end of this very tense argument. And we got to mention also that Odetta has heard
part of it, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, she heard the fuck the shells yelling portion. So we definitely would want to acknowledge that she heard that because I don't know. How would she interpret that?
Mm-hmm.
What has she seen from Roland since coming through?
She just has fear for him, basically, is the big thing. And
yeah, but has she seen...
This doesn't help.
No, but has she seen anything from him to like, he's been so quiet and standoffish, and now he's sick to the point where she probably doesn't have a whole lot to go off with him. I mean, she has fear of him.
Yeah.
But like this, like you said, it certainly isn't helping matters of her fear. So
no.
What do you got in subchapter number 5 here?
So they make the best time the entire trek that day, and then Eddie takes her. There's no door in sight. Eddie takes her, carries her to an even patch of ground that looked fairly smooth, got the cushions from the back of the chair and the seat, and eased them under her. Lord, it feels so good to stretch out, Seaside. But her brow clouded. I keep thinking of that man back there, Roland, all by himself, and I can't really enjoy it. Eddie, who is he? What is he? and almost as an afterthought, and why does he shout so much? Just his nature, I guess, Eddie said, and abruptly went off to gather rocks. Roland hardly ever shouted. He guessed some of it was this morning, fuck the shells, like you brought up, but that the rest of it was false memory, the time she thought she had been Odetta. So it's interesting to think about that, is that
maybe he false memories have built him up to be more scary, which is, that's self-defeating in some ways. Like, that sucks for us. Like, you know, like
it's just like, oh, fuck, another thing.
Yeah, if this group's going to get along, it's probably not great that Odetta side is going to have memories that are not helpful to the cause, as it were.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, that's certainly what we're seeing here. Then the next bit here, it says he killed Triple as a gunslinger and instructed, and was so intent on the last that he skipped back from a fourth, which was closing on his right, with only instant to spare. He saw the way that its claws clicked on the empty space which had been occupied by his foot and leg a moment before, and thought of the gunslinger's missing fingers. So yeah, close call there. Don't they just creep you out? Like,
yes,
just
yes, they do.
Freaky things, man. Like, the thing is that other thing too is that King doesn't do a whole lot to like give us much about them beyond Roland's early thing, but like throughout, like we definitely have allusion to them and stuff. But like even like when it attacks Jack, like it isn't going that deep into like what they look like. It's like it's just more like, I think it talks about its speed of movement, but like beyond that, like they're just fucking buzzsaws. Like they, you know, and like, which is almost an interesting thing from his perspective, because it's allowing you in a lot of ways to just fill a lot of it in, right? Like he gives you a lot of descriptors in that early portion, and then the rest of it, he kind of just allows you to just kind of fill it in. You know, like here, it doesn't say like, you know, a particularly big one, you know, got close to Eddie and, you know, whatever. Like, no, it just kind of breezes past that and just goes, you know, a fourth one, you know. So I don't know. I find that interesting, kind of leaving it to the imagination, which is always good for horror.
Oh, yeah. No, it's always worse when you don't get a clear picture of it.
Yeah.
You know, and so the little bit that we've described to us is pincers, beak, scuttling, and did a chick.
Yeah.
I mean, really outside of that, I mean, if someone asked me to paint a lobstrosity or draw one, I mean, aside from being a horrible artist myself, if I had the artistic talent, I don't know what I would draw.
Yeah, it'd be rough. And like, I guess we kind of got an impression of size a little bit, just because you got to get the idea that they're not just lobsters. Like,
no, they're bigger. They're
definitely bigger. But yeah, I think I'd have a hard time drawing them as well, and even visualizing them for me a little bit. Like, I don't know fully what I picture, but I got something in my head. I just don't know that I can ever portray it very well. So what do you got next here in number
so they're
5?
Yeah, so he's cooking, and then, "Look, Eddie," she cried, pointing up. He looked and saw a single star gleaming on the breast of the night. "Isn't it beautiful?" "Yes," he said, and suddenly, for no reason, his eyes filled with tears. Just where had he been all his goddamn life? Where had he been, what had he been doing, and who had he been with while he did it? And why did he suddenly feel so grimly and abysmally beshitted? Is that right? Beshitted?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I had to notate that because it always throws me for a loop when I'm reading through it. Beshitted.
Yeah. It's a good one there.
Right.
Yeah, so they're kind of under the stars here, alien stars as well. We haven't really had a lot explained, but, you know, certainly different. I remember thinking that, where it's just like, this is a different world. Like, and I think I was like somewhat debating, like, is it just a version of our world? Like, is this just some future post-apocalyptic version? Because like there's things like the Beatles songs or whatever, but like, I don't know. I always just pictured it being different. I mean,
at least different. I mean, we got lobstrosities to show us that some things are different.
Yeah, because I feel like here, like if it was the same, I feel like you'd maybe, if you're a king, you'd put in like, oh, there's the Big Dipper. Like you'd have some touch point to like to point out that, oh, it's the same. Like, but since he's not, it just gives me the impression that like I remember thinking like, okay, like, and maybe it's just my imagination and how I fill in the gaps that he's not doing for us. Is I just picture it being different. Not that I'm a stargazer enough that I don't know how much I would be able to notice personally.
Right.
If I were on.
I would not. I got to be honest with you. I would not. I mean, I know a couple of constellations, Big Dipper, Little Dipper, and Orion's Belt. Thank you, Men in Black, just because of that movie when I was a kid.
Okay.
This is Orion's belt. This is Orion. This is Orion's belt. Am I actually looking at Orion's belt or any 3 random stars that happen to be in a line? Do I think it's Orion's belt? Probably.
Yeah.
But can I find the North Star? Probably a 50-50 shot off of my Boy Scout training from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
would I be able to tell that they're different stars than what we have today, tonight? No. No,
Yeah.
I would not.
Yeah, indeed. Next I have is a little bit further down here. So basically they're kind of going through like a song or something. I'm not even sure.
It's a little chant. Starlight, Starbright for Star See Tonight.
I've never
Never heard of that?
Never heard it until this. Like I
Really?
wasn't familiar with enough.
It's something that, as a kid you did. The first time you see a star at night, you make a wish on it.
Oh, yeah, it was new to me coming to this.
That's crazy.
I spent my childhood going in the mirror and saying Candyman multiple times.
Bloody Mary.
Here we have that. Like that my childhood, I guess, versus the
you
more
just
wholesome.
you just get a peek into Tad's life there as a kid. You just picture a little creep of a kid standing there holding a fucking knife. Come on, Candyman, I'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
No, who am I kidding? You wouldn't fuck up Candyman. You'd want to join him.
I mean, he is pretty cool.
See?
He's got a hook. How can you go wrong with a hook?
Name one person who has a hook that's a good guy.
I know what you did last summer.
A bad guy, killer.
What about Marlon Brando from On the Waterfront? He has one of those, basically the one from the guy from I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like what are you? They're like freight hooks that like you can grab to lift like heavy things or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he's at least one, right? Captain Hook.
Okay, come on.
He's a good man.
He's trying to kill children.
Yeah, I mean, can he though? I mean, that's a whole. Are they already dead? Like, there's that whole.
No, don't go into that. Too dark. Too dark.
Too dark for
a Stephen King podcast. Damn.
Oh yeah, so I actually
Tad is terrible.
I was not familiar with that. I really wasn't. So
that's crazy.
If it was a thing, I mean, there was part of me that's like it's probably a thing, but like I didn't know if it was like maybe a more dated thing that would have been back like in their time periods versus like what I'd be familiar with. So yeah, certainly wasn't familiar with it. But then like the next note I have highlighted here is just below that. They looked at each other and he saw tears were streaming down her cheeks. His own came again, and he let them fall in her sight. This is not a shame, but an inexpressible relief. They smiled at each other. Have the wish I wish tonight, Eddie said, and thought, please, always you. Have the wish I wish tonight, she echoed, and thought, if I must die in this odd place, please let it not be too hard, and let this good young man be with me. So it's an interesting insight into both of their psyches. In terms of where their heads are at, for her, she's still kind of in the realm of not wanting to die. Like, whereas Eddie, he's just like beyond that. He's just like, just let me be with her.
Yep.
But she kind of has like, she wants to be with him as well. But before that, she kind of prefaces it with, "Don't let me die in this weird place." So it's kind of an interesting insight to it. And then, do you got anything else for this subchapter or
no?
Okay, so 6.
I mean, the whole subchapter. I mean, it's like 3 lines. So
is it? In mine, it shows a line and like a couple words. Oh yeah, I guess the Kindle pages are a little wider. So.
Yeah. Later was strange galaxies turning in slow. Gavote. I've never understood how to say that word.
Yeah.
Gavotte.
Yeah, I think so.
Overhead, neither thought the act of love had been so sweet, so full. So they're a couple now, I guess.
Yeah, indeed.
There's a way to look at it.
Consummating it here, as it were.
So obviously an important development because before it was just Eddie, in love with her. I mean, we even just saw it with like the wish.
Yeah.
That she was like, well, if I have to die, make it not be too terrible, and I guess keep him with me.
Yeah. I'll throw him in.
Yeah, sure, why not? I'll take it if it's free.
And I will say, I guess, like my earlier suspicions that I remember having early on were paid off here too with strange galaxies turning. Yeah. So like that kind of pays it off that, it is indeed different. But again, I almost think it's just one of those things, it's unwritten that it's different, but the way that it's handled kind of almost tells you that it's different. So, moving into subchapter 7.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start here with the very beginning. They were off with the dawn racing, and by 9, Eddie was wishing that he had asked Roland what he should do if they came to the place where the hills cut off the beach and there was still no door in sight. It seemed a question of some importance because the end of the beach was coming, no doubt about it. The hills marched ever closer, running in a diagonal line towards the water. So yeah, as you know, such as it usually is, I feel like when you get like nature with that kind of thing, like it can feel like kind of a gradual pinch, but eventually it comes to a point where it starts to get way more extreme. So yeah, I guess that is a question that would be a tough one to answer is what if you get to the end of the beach and there's no door?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a tough one, but Roland was pretty emphatic that no, it'll be there. The other two were there. That one will be too. So
it's close to the edge of the beach, but it's there.
Yeah. So what do you got next?
At 9:30, Odetta cried, "Stop, Eddie, stop." He stopped so abruptly that she had to grab the arms of the chair to keep from tumbling out. He was around to her in a flash. "I'm sorry, are you all right?" "Fine." She saw he had mistaken excitement for distress. She pointed, "Up there. Do you see something?" He shaded his eyes and saw nothing. He squinted. For just a moment he thought, no. It was surely just heat shimmer rising from the packed ground. "I don't think so," he said and smiled, "except maybe your wish." "I think I do." She turned her excited, smiling face to him, standing all by itself, near where the beach ends. So, again, like what I was saying, the beach ending and everything like that is where the third door is.
Yeah.
He looked again, squinted so hard this time that his eyes watered. He thought again, just for a moment he saw something. "You did," he thought, and smiled. "You saw her wish." "Maybe," he said, not because he believed it, but because she did. "Well, let's go." That was Odetta. Eddie went behind her chair again, taking a moment to massage his lower back, where a steady ache had settled. She looked around. "What are you waiting for? You really think we've got it spotted? You really think you've got it spotted, don't you?" "Yes." "Well then, let's go." Eddie started pushing again.
Yep. So yeah, she is convinced that she is seeing the door at the end of the beach here. So moving into number 8 here, subchapter 8, we get the first line here. Half an hour later, he saw it too. Jesus, he thought, her eyes are as good as Roland's, maybe better. I don't know about better, but
defensive of your boy, eh?
Yeah, a little bit. What do you got next here in number 8?
Neither wanted to stop for lunch, but they needed to eat. They made a quick meal and then pushed on again. The tide was coming in, and Eddie looked to the right, west with rising unease. They were still well above the tangled line of the kelp and seaweed that marked high water, but he thought that by the time they reached the door, they would be in an uncomfortable tight angle bounded by the sea on one side and the slanting hills on the other. He could see those hills very clearly now. There was nothing pleasant about the view. They were rocky, stubbed with low trees and that curled their roots into the ground like arthritic knuckles, keeping a grim grip and thorny-looking bushes. They weren't really steep, but too steep for the wheelchair. He might be able to carry her up away, might in fact be forced to, but he didn't fancy leaving her there.
Yeah, so he's starting to plot basically the circumstances of, well, there's the door, so I'm gonna have to leave her here.
But the beach is so small that the high tide line looks like it's close to the door, which means that we have to worry about lobstrosity. So if he leaves her right next to the door, she could be lobster food.
Yeah.
So he has to look at carrying her up into the hills, and that's where he's talking about here is these hills. They're not good-looking hills.
Yeah.
They're not nice and easy green meadows and, sound of music running in the fields and flowers and everything like that.
Yeah.
They're rocky. There's arthritic-looking knuckles of roots from trees.
Yeah.
And thorny bushes. So not a pleasant place to leave your new love.
Yeah. I'd say also I'm going to give him credit for this foresight,
True.
I don't know, is this, I think it's kind of a newer thing from Eddie. I don't think that he's had this same kind of, I don't know, like this, I feel this is somewhat Rolandish, that he's seeing it and he's not just getting caught up in emotion or anything. He's instantly thinking about the logistics of things. And maybe that's because of his love for her, but I think that it's certainly growth for him as a character
for sure.
as well in a world that's far less, soft as ours. Let's see. And then they're a little bit further down here. For the first time, he was seeing birds other than gulls. Some are biggies that circled inland off the stiff wings. Hawks, he thought. He saw them fold their wings from time to time and plummet like stones. Hunting what? Well, small animals. That was all right. Yet he kept thinking of that yowl he heard in the night. So yeah, basically starting to see more creatures as we get to this end. We have seen birds. I don't know if Eddie was there yet because we saw a lobstrosity pick one. No,
Yeah.
Frank, Jack saw that.
Yeah.
Jack, I believe, right when he looked back and saw the door. So yeah, probably not as not that there weren't birds.
Yeah.
but
But he says other than seagulls is the big thing.
other than gulls, yeah, because it was a gull that the lobstrosity grabbed.
Yummy.
Yeah, crunch. What do you got next? After the yowl here in 8.
I think I lost my spot. Hold on a sec. Go ahead.
All right.
I'm looking.
My next one is actually just after that. By mid-afternoon, they could see the third door clearly. Like the other two, it was an impossibility, which nonetheless stood as stark as a post. So yeah, again, very supernatural element of the door. And I will say, there's a lot of people that have done like shoots, not even necessarily for Dark Tower, where they'll put a door up in like a very weird place. Some of it's for Dark Tower, but some of it just isn't. And I think the reason people do that is because it is a very striking image, because it's just so wrong to see it out of context, you know, to see a door just like in the middle of a desert or on a beach or in the woods. Like, it's just bizarre.
It is definitely weird to see just a door just sitting there. I can't remember. I'm watching Stranger Things off of your suggestion.
Yeah, the new season.
Yeah, I was holding off on watching it till I got closer to Halloween because it's such a spooky, scary kind of show.
Yeah,
and you're like, no, dude, you got to watch it in the summertime. So I'm partway through it. I think there's a scene where someone goes through a door and they turn around and the door's just standing in that kind of like vision place that's in Stranger Things. First thought, instantly thought of drawing of the 3. That's what it would look like.
Yeah.
That's what it would look like.
Yeah. I believe in the West Desert, on the way to Nevada, there's like a whole area there where you basically just get like these salt flat type, basically where the lake is washed out, the Great Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And you just have, well, no, it probably wouldn't be the Great Salt Lake because that's way further
It was
out.
It was what's called Lake Bonneville.
But I don't know if it was
this whole area was underwater.
But this may be further than that would have reached, because this is like damn near to Nevada side, and there's like this whole area where basically people will like draw things in it with rocks, beer bottles. Like, sometimes people have like just 24 whatever pack of beer and stop and they'll like write their names or whatever. Whatever. One time going out there more recently over the last couple of years, there was a door out there, and it was interesting. Yeah. It had like the door jam part too. It's like one that looks like somebody would have just bought from Home Depot. I'm hoping they didn't just buy it to go drop it out in the middle of the desert. But
I looked it up because I was questioning the name specifically, if I was remembering right, Lake Bonneville, only because I was obsessed with dinosaurs when I was a kid.
Yeah,
and I remember that this whole area was underwater.
Yeah, the valley we're in was basically a lake. So
most of the territory it covered was in present-day Utah, though parts of the lake extended into present-day Idaho to the north of us, and Nevada to the west of us.
Oh, okay. So
it is Lake Bonneville existed until about 14,500 years ago.
Okay, so it'd be just basically the what was the lake bed of that lake, because there's these parts.
Exactly.
It's just very smooth.
It's if you want to see it in film, it's in several movies. There's the one with Anthony Hopkins that's the fastest Indian, which is about racing on the salt flats.
Yeah.
Also,
but
one of the
I don't know that what I'm talking about is the salt flats particularly. I think it's just past the actual salt flats.
Yeah.
But it just
it's like that though. Is what you're talking about.
Yeah. The look of it.
But for anyone who hasn't ever looked up like the Bonneville salt flats, I think that's actually what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Bonneville salt flats. It's similar to like that, but you also get that in
Pirates of the Caribbean did something out there.
There's one of the movies, The Pirates of the Caribbean, where Johnny Depp's character...
Where's there's like a ship in the middle of the desert,
in the middle of the desert. That was filmed here in Utah at that location. And what Tad's talking about is just a little ways past the salt flats there.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily like the salt flats. It's more like dirt.
Yeah.
And sand, and not sand, but dirt.
But it looks like it.
But it looks like it.
It's been wet, like because it's like smooth like that, like what you see on a beach. And yeah, like people just are always doing stuff. There was one that somebody built like a wooden like shark fin that has it. So yeah, there's like all kinds of funny little things you could see out there. But yeah, one time I saw like a door
That's so
put
cool.
up there, and I was like, oh, I wish I could stop and take a picture, but on the freeway, I don't like stopping. But yeah, that's
And there is no exits around there.
No.
There's nothing out there.
no, there is. It is what a desolate place this is. Going on here, it was exactly where he had begun. Oh wait, I already did that one. Or no, did I? Or you just did. Never mind.
I just did that.
Go on. So we're on to number 9 now, subchapter 9. So they simply looked at it. Odetta in her chair with her hands in her lap. Eddie on the seaside. In one way, they looked at it. Or they looked at it as they had looked at the evening stars the previous night, which is to say, as children looked at things. But in another, they looked differently. When they wished on the stars, they had been children of joy. Now they were solemn, wondering like children looking at the stark embodiment of things which only belonged in fairy tales. So a little bit of a different vibe here as they're seeing the door.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Eddie's seen her door too, but this will be the first door that she's seen.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of an interesting thing for her, and maybe with Eddie as well. It's a little bit more conscious, and obviously the circumstances make this a little bit different than when he saw the last one. He was a little bit on edge
A little bit.
with the second door.
A little bit.
What do you got next?
Right below that, 2 words were written on this door. What does it mean? Odetta asked finally. I don't know, Eddie said, but those words had brought a hopeless chill. He felt an eclipse stealing across his heart. Don't you? She asked, looking at him more closely. No, he swallowed. No. She looked at him for a long moment. Push me behind it, please. I'd like to see that. I know you want to get back to him, but would you do that for me? He would. They started around on the high side of the door. Wait, she cried. Did you see it? What? Go back. Look. Watch. This time he watched the door instead of what might be ahead to trip them up. As they went above it, he saw it narrow in perspective, saw its hinges which seemed to be buried in nothing at all, saw its thickness, then it was gone. The thickness of the door was gone. His view of the water should have been interrupted by 3, perhaps even 4 inches of solid wood. The door looked extraordinarily stout, but there was no such interruption. The door was gone. Its shadow was there, but the door was gone. He rolled the chair back 2 feet, so he was just south of the place where the door stood, and the thickness was there. You see it? He asked in a ragged voice. Yes, it's there. He rolled the chair forward a foot. The door was still there. Another 6 inches, still there. Another 2 inches, still there. Another inch, and it was gone. Solid gone. Jesus, he said. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, now I'm trying to remember. Did we get that in one of the previous doors from Roland's perspective?
Roland perspective got it on the first door.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because I was about to say, I don't recall this being new. I feel like we've already knew this,
but it's new for them.
It's new for them, certainly. Yeah. I guess there's just part of me that's like, as detailed as this goes, it makes me think that it almost feels new in a way. But yeah, I was like, I swear to God, we've seen this with Roland, maybe with the first door, as he was like trying to figure out what the fuck it was. But yeah, definitely nothing new for us as an audience, but they're certainly amazed by it. And then, next line here, would it open for you, she asked, or me? He stepped forward, slowly grasping the knob of the door with those two words upon it. He tried clockwise, tried anti-clockwise. The knob moved not an iota. Now, I've never... Anti-clockwise?
Counterclockwise. What I've always...
I was about to say, I don't know if that's like a New England thing, or... Because there are some. I mean, I've always heard goosebumps, not goose flesh is king. So there's certain things that he uses phrasing-wise, but anti-clockwise is not one that I'm familiar with.
I've never heard that phrase until this book.
Yeah. Now, here's...
I don't know, maybe that's a... Is that a foreign thing? Because there's lots of things that are different overseas than, here,
I'm not sure.
Of course, I can't think of one off the top of my head now, but there's things that we call, well, I mean, just even like spelling things.
Yeah. There's
color, COLOR for us.
Yeah.
COLOUR for them. So for me, it's just interesting. Anti-clockwise.
It does sound more British to me a little bit.
Doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah. But yeah, certainly not what I'm familiar with. Now, here's a question for you. If the door opened, what then?
Ooh. No, we're not going to talk about that. Nope.
No, I think it's an interesting.
I think that she goes through and Eddie goes and gets Roland.
Yeah.
I think he would feel safe leaving her
In the door. Yeah.
in the door.
I see it from that perspective for
but
sure.
Eddie would not leave him. He would feel safer leaving her. He'd be more worried about her, but I don't think that he would.
Do you think he'd go through maybe to get medicine to where he could start treating her? I mean,
Maybe.
I just wonder, like, and potentially what slippery slope might not necessarily like. I mean, there is the whole Gus Fring element of can never trust a junkie, but I don't know that I'm fully in that camp at this moment where I'd think like, oh, he's just gonna go score some smack. But like I just wonder, like it would be a very interesting temptation for both of these characters if they had a door to New York City, presumably, because if 2 out of 3 now have been New York, so if the third one was also New York, although it'd be hilarious if it did open, but it was like on some like new freaking plane that's just like looks like on the inside what Jupiter looks like on the outside. It's just like all these like weird like things from the mist like walking around. Like, that'd be hilarious. But it's interesting to think about what would happen if it would open, because I don't know, be some temptation for these characters. And
for sure,
I mean, we don't necessarily know Odetta as much as we know Eddie at this point, but it would be a certain temptation for sure, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what do you got next in number 9?
So he talks about getting her settled. She's saying that she'll be fine. He says, no, you're too close to the high tide line. And then up in the hills, a cat's coughing growl suddenly cut across what he was saying like a knife cutting thin cord. It was a good distance away, but closer than the others had been. Her eyes flicked to the gunslinger's revolver shoved into the waistband of his pants for just a moment, then back to his face. He felt a dull heat in his cheeks. He told you not to give it to me, didn't he? She said softly. He doesn't want me to have it. For some reason, he doesn't want me to have it. The shells got wet, he said awkwardly. They probably wouldn't fire anyway. I understand. Take me a little way up the slope, Eddie, can you? I know you're tired. Your back must be. Andrew calls it wheelchair crouch. But if you take me up there a little way, I'll be safe from the lobsters. I doubt if anything else comes very close to where they are. Eddie thought, when the tide's in, she's probably right. But what about when it starts to go out again? Give me something to eat and some stones, she said. And her unknowing echo of the gunslinger made Eddie flush again. His cheeks and forehead felt like the sides of a brick oven. She looked at him, smiled faintly, and shook her head as if he had spoken out loud. We're not going to argue about this. I saw how it is with him. His time is very, very short. There is no time for discussion. Take me up a little way, give me food and some stones, and then take the chair and go. So I remember reading this the first time and being like, thank the Lord. We don't have to worry about him giving her the gun because she's not going to take it. Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, indeed. I'm the same. I mean, the fact that he's offering it pissed me off.
Yeah. Well, he didn't offer it. She broached the subject while it's still in his belt.
Okay, yeah. But here in the next subchapter,
in the next subchapter, he absolutely does offer it to her. You're 100% right.
And even here before, dude, there's just part of me. It's like, you motherfucker, you're gonna do it.
I know you're gonna do it.
Do it, man. I know it. It's just, yeah. It's like one of those where you just get angry. I'm assuming like if you watch The Mist, early in the movie, like you just start to get like more and more worked up. Like that's me here. It's like my boiler like gauge.
You got to release that steam,
is going up.
It might blow
because I just know that like you're gonna fucking give it to her. So into subchapter 10. He got her fixed as quickly as he could and pulled the gunslinger's revolver and held it out to her butt first. But she shook her head. He'll be angrier at me for taking. Crap, Eddie yelled. What gave you that idea? I know, she said, and her voice is impervious. Well, I suppose that's true. Just suppose I'll be angry if you don't take it. Put it back. I don't like guns. I don't know how to use them. If something came at me in the dark, the first thing I'd do is wet my pants. Second thing I'd do is point it the wrong way and shoot myself. She paused, looking at Eddie solemnly. There's something else, and you may as well know it. I don't want to touch anything that belongs to him. Not anything. For me, I think his things might have what my ma used to call a hoodoo. I like to think of myself as a modern woman, but I don't want any hoodoo on me when you're gone and the dark land is on top, and the dark land on top of me. So, that's an interesting addition to Odetta a little bit. Not that, because I feel like, yeah, she does. She calls herself a modern woman, but everything we've seen from her, you know, not necessarily Detta, but from Odetta, has been nothing but modern woman. I mean, I even think back to as far back as calling JFK the last gunslinger and how, like, you know, she was just completely so against that. Like, I feel like that was just it just fits like a glove, modern woman. So the fact that she believes and or puts credence in, like, a hoodoo is interesting to me. What were you going to say?
No, I just wanted to point out the way she's saying that. It's a really cool way of saying it. I don't want any hoodoo on me when you're gone, and the dark lands on top of me.
Oh, the dark lands, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a really cool way of saying it. Like it's something pouncing on her.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I've always liked the way that that's phrased, is that it's like, because it is something that's, when you're out in a place that doesn't have cities.
Yeah.
That darkness comes, that sun sets, and boom, the lights go out.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's nothing there. It really is a really apt way of saying it, that the darkness lands on you.
Yeah.
Because it's coming. You can kind of see it coming with like the shadows as the sun's going down, and then boom, it hits you. And all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I can't see 3 feet in front of me.
Yeah. I love it, though. I do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's creepy.
It's creepy. Well, you love being creeped out. I mean, that's one of the things that, I don't know if I've ever said this on the show, but I'm going to admit it now. My favorite weather, I don't want to call it phenomenon, but there's really not another word for it, is fog.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than waking up in the morning, driving to work, because I get up so early, and driving through fog.
Yeah. Even though here it's usually smog.
Usually it's smog.
But it has the same look.
But I drive through the riverbed over there.
Yeah.
I go out and drive through the riverbed.
So with your aversion to beasts, it seems like you're just testing it.
I'm just asking for it, I know. But hey, who doesn't love a good scare on Halloween? You know, I mean, no, just quoting Halloween. But
yeah.
No, I love to be scared. I love horror movies. That's the reason why I love them, is because it gets to you. It gets that adrenaline going and everything. And then when you walk out of the theater or, you know, turn on the lights afterwards, you're just like, whew, all right.
Yeah.
That was a 2-hour-long roller coaster. That's the same reason why people ride roller coasters.
Absolutely.
It's not to feel the wind in their hair. It's to feel like, oh, fuck, I'm going to die.
Yeah, that's true. Skydiving, everything else. There's a lot of things out there. Certainly, but yeah, no.
You want to talk about fucked up, all right? Did you see the fucking video of the guy that skydived with things that were, like, pierced into his back?
No.
Like, took it to the next fucking level. He didn't put a backpack on. He had, like, hooks pierced into his skin and jumped off of a fucking cliff with the hooks, like 7 or 8 of them, pierced into his back's flesh. And so it was pulling his weight would pull his flesh as he went down.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck,
I
man?
don't think so. That's no bueno. And then,
that's a hard no for Tad.
Yeah, pretty much. What do you got next here in this subchapter? 10. 10?
He got her fixed quickly as he could. Oh wait, didn't I just read this?
Yeah,
I just read this.
Yeah, and then I did the just below it here.
Oh, okay.
With the hoodoo.
Right, the hoodoo.
Yeah.
She asks. He puts it back, and is there anything else, Odetta? He felt an urge to delay and delay. He thought it would pass once he was actually headed back, but now the urge to seize any excuse to remain seemed very strong. A kiss. I could do with that, if you don't mind. He kissed her long, and when their lips no longer touched, she caught his wrist and stared at him intently. I never made love with a white man before last night, she said. I don't know if it's important to you or not. I don't know if it's important to me, but I thought you should know. He considered. Not to me. In the dark, I think we're both gray. I love you, Odetta. She put a hand over his. You're a sweet young man, and perhaps I love you too, although it's too early for either of us. At that moment, as if given a cue, a wildcat growled it with what the gunslinger had called the brakes. It still sounded 4 or 5 miles away, but that was still 4 or 5 miles closer than the last time they had heard it, and it sounded big. They turned their heads toward the sound. Eddie felt Hackles trying to stand up on his neck. They couldn't quite make it. Sorry, Hackles, he thought stupidly. I guess my hair's just a little too long now.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that always makes me chuckle.
He would be getting some hair and beard going, unless he was shaving with Roland's knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, got the wildcat again, roaring in the distance, growling, whatever it is. Whatever you call cats doing. I don't know what you call that.
It's yowling.
Yowling.
That's what I call it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
yowling.
about the right word.
Roaring.
Yeah,
mean-
yeah, maybe.
I lions roar, tigers roar, that kind of thing.
See, I feel like this is more that like long drawn out one that you hear like with like wildcats more
Yeah.
more than like the giant cats, like I don't know, but maybe it is supposed to be more like a lion. Then it goes on here, says the growl rose to a tortured scream that sounded like a cry of some being suffering a horrid death. It might actually have signaled no more than a successful mating, it says in parentheses. It held for a moment and almost unbearable, and then it wound down, sliding through the lower registers until it was gone or buried beneath the ceaseless cry of the wind. They waited for it to come again, but the cry did not repeat. As far as Eddie was concerned, that didn't matter. He pulled the revolver out of his waistband again and held it out to her. Take it and don't argue. If you should need to use it, it won't do shit. That's how stuff like this always works, but take it anyway. Do you want an argument? Oh, you can argue. You can argue all you want. After a considering look into Eddie's almost hazel eyes, she smiled a little wearily. I won't argue, I guess. She took the gun. Please be as quick as you can. I will. He kissed her again and hurriedly this time, and almost told her to be careful. But seriously, folks, how careful could she be with the situation, what it was? So, yeah, that's as we suspected, Yep. There's no doubt. It's one of those things like, yeah, once you gave Eddie that gun, from King's perspective, there's pretty much no way that it doesn't end up in the hands of Odetta.
Yep. And so now Eddie's on his way back to Roland, who told him to not give her the gun, without the gun, and with the chair, which we already talked about. The very, very important chair.
Yeah. Yes.
But she's at the third door with the gun. Still Odetta.
Yeah.
And he's on his way back to Roland.
Yeah. A little bit further down here it says, as he's moving, it says he looked at the words written upon the door again. The same chill rose in his flesh. They were apt, those words. God, they were so apt. Then he looked back up the slope. For a moment he could see her, or he couldn't see her. Then he saw something move, the light brown of one palm. She was waving. So, as he's moving away here, still not getting an indication of what the door says. I don't know that bothers me as much as like the revelation from Roland, probably because it isn't as important to the story. And it's
also, it's like it's not as important because we're gonna find out. Like,
yeah,
when I was reading this the first time and I didn't know what was gonna happen, I'm like, well, okay. The longest that I'm going to have to wait to find out what it's going to be is for Eddie to get back to Roland and bring him here.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to tell me then. That's what I thought. I don't know about you.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I certainly knew that we'd be getting it at some point. It wasn't too much of an issue. But here we've gone quite a ways since that revelation from Roland, and we haven't really got anything. So that's
right.
It's more like the long wait versus this doesn't feel as long. So then what do you got next here in the closing bits of 11?
It was 10 minutes or so after he heard the first of their buzzing cries when he looked up and saw the evening star glowing calmly against the dark blue velvet of the sky. Heavenly shades of night are falling. It's twilight time. Let her be safe. His legs were already aching, his breath too hot and heavy in his lungs. There was still a third trip to make, this time with the gunslinger as his passenger. And although he guessed Roland must have outweighed Odetta by a full 100 pounds and knew he would conserve his strength, Eddie kept running anyway. He should conserve his strength, Let her be safe. That's my wish. Let my beloved be safe. And like an ill omen, a wildcat screeched somewhere in the tortured ravines that cut through the hills. Only this wildcat sounded as big as a lion roaring in an African jungle. So that goes back to what you were saying. Eddie ran faster, pushing the unattended gantry of the wheelchair before him. Soon the wind began to make a thin, ghastly whine through the freely turning spokes of the raised front wheels. So he's propping it up and booking it.
Yeah, indeed. And that called it a screech? That's an interesting word for a cat's noise.
What I'm picturing, I don't know what you picture, but what I'm picturing is a mountain lion.
Yeah.
Cougar, puma, whatever you want to call it. They have so many goddamn names, which is so weird when you think about it. Not to get off on a tangent, because we know how I feel about tangents, but freaking tiger, lion, cheetah, leopard, black panther, mountain lion, cougar, puma, all of those three mean the same fucking cat. And I think there's a fourth one that I'm forgetting about.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, they gotta tighten that up.
Like
Those,
they gotta tighten that up.
Yeah.
They gotta pick a name and stick with it.
Commit here.
Come on.
I think that'll probably be a good spot to.
I think it's a perfect spot to stop.
To stop, and we've got To the Door now for the first time. Dropped her off and going back for Roland, and we're puts us at about time too. So I think that's a good place to stop. So. So if you're here live with us, I mentioned at the early portion of the show, we're here early for the live show, but it'll be coming out on the podcast feed at normal time. So a little bit. So where are we at? It'll probably be coming out. I'd probably look for it somewhere between the 17th and 19th would be my guess, especially because I have a little bit more time before then. In the podcast feed. So if you're in the podcast feed, you're getting it normal time. But we recorded a little early. So we will stay on normal schedule though. And when we come back, if you're listening to the podcast in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if you're listening to us live, we'll be back for a roundtable, another roundtable, and see what we got. There's all kinds of stuff. We're closing in very fast on It coming out, Chapter 2. We also have Dr. Sleep a little bit later.
We need to talk about It Chapter 2. I meant to talk about this last time and I completely forgot. So maybe it's not the best time to talk about. No, I'll save it for roundtable. I'll talk to you off air. We'll talk about it next time on the roundtable. So a little tease.
Okay.
That I'm bringing something to the table.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So we'll go ahead and hit the closing real quick. If you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on Apple Podcast Service. You can stream us on Stitcher. If you could leave a review on Apple's service, their podcasting service, we would appreciate that. Find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com, though there are no show notes for this episode. If you want to get in contact with us, Peter can tell you the ways to do that.
Best way to reach us is email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then Twitter is @darktowerpod, @darktowerpod. Like Tad said earlier in the show, that's where he usually updates us straight there. But if you subscribe and like our channel and ring the bell on YouTube, youtube.com/darktowerpalaver, you'll be notified every time we go live because we record every show live. But we don't post the book clubs like we do on YouTube. But we do still release them through the podcast service. But if you subscribe us on YouTube and ring that bell, you get notified. Hey, maybe you'll be able to tune in. We do still need to figure out a time to do an overseas show at a different time.
We did do an early episode.
We did do one just recently.
Yeah, we definitely can look at it because we also have people on both sides of different oceans that would necessitate different times to record based on whether we're going east or west from where we are at, in which ocean we're crossing.
Very sure.
So, we definitely will still do that. And I also feel like we've mentioned before that maybe a call-in show we need to be doing at some point.
Someone brought that up on their top 10 list last time, and I just went, oh, we got to do a call-in show. I miss doing that.
I think we committed to it before the end of the year.
Before the end of the year.
Yeah, I think Year of King, good way to have a call-in show. Maybe even do it like late in the year to where Dr. Sleep is already out, It is already out, to kind of give people plenty of things to talk about. Hopefully a lot more Dark Tower news for the show by then. So for the podcast, folks, we will say as we always do to close the show, long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, and everyone in the live chat, thank you guys for joining us. We had a number of people pop in and out. I saw the numbers kind of go up a little ways there, but had a few guys in here regular, so thank you guys for joining us. I'm not sure if
Cody, Travis, and then one other one, and I'm not seeing my chat's not letting me go back for some
ZT
reason.
Didn't tell us who they were, but the ZT was in the chat as well. So welcome everyone that was here. And then we got Panzerpox just showed up, said woke up too late. So we just got done. But I'm assuming waking up, that means that you would apply to the conversation of doing one for overseas folks. We definitely want to plan something to do that. We did have to because of scheduling, we had to do our last episode a little early, so it was maybe a little bit more useful to people in Europe. But yes, Australia, you're on the other side, so that one is one we're gonna have to do a live show for, which would probably be doing it later then if he's just waking up. Probably we'd have to record later on, maybe in the evening for us, which would probably mean that that would probably be a Friday show due to your work schedule going
Correct.
later. So yeah, we'll have to definitely think about that. I don't know if
It is currently 9:11 a.m. in Sydney right now.
okay, yeah, that's because it's like yeah,
It's Saturday in Sydney. It's Friday right now for us.
that always trips me out.
Yep, they're around the they're across the date line. So.
Yeah, I remember Y2K being the first time I think is,
Yep.
you know, not that I didn't understand it fully, but like the fact of like, hey, it's no big deal. It's already the year 2000 in some places and the world hasn't ended.
Yep.
So, yeah. Also, I wanted to mention, I don't know if Travis is still in the chat or not, but I came to find out that Travis is a fan of the movie Detroit Rock City.
Oh, good man.
And I was telling him like,
Fuck, it's Elvis.
yeah, we spent many years referencing that movie.
God, we still do.
Yeah,
I get so many bad looks whenever an Elvis reference is made, and I go, fuck, it's Elvis.
yeah, indeed. I just had to bring that up because yeah, you and I, that's one of those movies that we've quoted quite a bit over the years, like that Basketball, Mystery Men. There's like
basketball.
there's a couple there from like that late '90s period where
The comedies,
there's
yeah.
a lot of quotes from those. So I wanted to mention that, but yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Yeah, we will definitely figure out something for an Australian show. We know we've got a couple of you guys now in Australia.
Yeah.
That have emailed at least. I mean, who knows about how many other people might be listening that don't email?
For sure.
Definitely from the numbers of who downloads, there's still a lot of people that are staying silent, which is fine.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, there may be more than we know. I haven't looked at the breakdown of countries recently, but yeah, I've definitely had a couple emails from folks from Australia, so we will we'll plan something. I think we can commit to like before
we'll call it the Outworld podcast. That episode will be called the Outworld show.
I think we probably do one more like for the European time zone, and then one for Australia, and then do a live show.
Yeah.
You know, before the year's out, and I don't know if any crossover happens where some like the call-in episode might be one where it might be more friendly to like. I don't know. I feel like in the old days, I feel like we at least hit a spot where people were able to like.
We did.
And then we got to figure out what that sweet spot is. But thank you guys for joining us. And we will be back for the live stream. We'll be back on the 31st, most likely. Yeah, I don't foresee any scheduling issues. So normal time on the 31st, which I know is a longer time. But got 2 in a row, right?
Yeah.
Two a week,
back
week
to back.
week. So see you guys next time. And long days and pleasant nights to you folks.
Same to you guys. Bye.